Hello and welcome back, delegates. I hope everyone's enjoyed your lunch and those amazing committee reports that have been up on the screen for the last bit. Even through COVID, we have prevailed to make sure that the committees are meeting as often as they possibly can. Truly amazing work that's done by the committees in really tough times. Thank you all for that one. I am hoping that folks were able to take a bit of a break away from their screens, though. A little bit of work-life balance there, making sure that you're safe. And we're able to get some fresh air. It's cool but wonderful out there. So at this time now, we have our order of the day. So I am going to turn the chair over to Janet Kaler. Janet, all yours.
Thanks, Michelle. As I mentioned before, nominations closed at 12 o'clock today, but I would invite now, I'm going to open the floor for nominations for the position of president. And I'll remind delegates that if you are making a nomination, please raise your virtual hand, and then when you come on the screen, give us your name and identify your local. There's no hands up yet, but I feel confident somebody is going to be nominated. So we'll just wait a second. Okay, I see somebody has put their hand up. I'd like to call on Michelle Skabinski. Hi, Michelle.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michelle Skabinski. I'm president of Local 33, Area 7, and I'm the component director for administration. It is with great honor that I'd like to nominate my sister, Michelle Goronsky, for president of MGEU. Thank you, and my pug stands in support as well.
Thanks, Michelle. I should have mentioned, folks, that I will, in reverse order, confirm with the candidate. I now see James Alexander has his hand up.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, James.
Hi, Janet. I'd like to nominate Dylan Almdahl for president of the MGEU. And thank you guys very much.
Thank you, James. I'd like to recognize Kimberly Lynn has her hand up. Good afternoon, Kim.
Sorry, having some issues trying to unmute here. Kimberly
okay.
Lynn, Post-Secondary Component Director, President of Local 71. It was with great pride that I nominate Kyle Ross for President of the MGEU.
Thank you, Kim. Seeing no other hands, I will call for the second time for nominations for the position of President. Seeing no other hands, for the third and final time.
I didn't even think about not having to nominate him.
Okay, motions will cease. Reverse order. Kyle Ross, do you accept the nomination for position of president?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Yes, I accept my nomination with thanks to my nominator.
Thank you, Kyle. Dylan Almdahl, do you accept the nomination for the position of president?
With thanks to my nominator, yes, I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Dylan. And now I will move to Michelle Goronsky. Do you accept the nomination for the position of president of the MGEU?
With great pride, and I humbly do accept my nomination. Thank you so very much.
Okay, thanks, Michelle. That closes nominations for the position of president. I will now move to accepting nominations for the position of first vice president. So the floor is now open for nominations. Just a reminder, if you want to make a nomination, put your hand up, virtual hand, and when you come on, give us your name. I see Cheryl Bergman.
Hello.
Hi, Cheryl.
My name is Cheryl Bergman, and I would like to nominate Scott Cloney. Hi. My name is Cheryl Bergman, and I would like to nominate Scott Cloney for the MGU First Vice President.
Thank you, Cheryl. I now see another candidate, delegate, at the mic, Tanis Schwartacki. Hi, Tanis.
Hi there, finally unmuted properly. My name is Tanis Rataki. I'm from Local 413. I'm the Chief Steward there currently, and I would like to nominate Charlotte McWilliams for the first Vice President.
Thank you very much, Tanis. I would now like to call on Delegate Steve Howells.
Hi, Janet.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, brothers and sisters. I'm Steve Howells. I'm the Chief Steward for Corrections, Area 7, Local 14. I would like to nominate William White for the position of First Vice President. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Steve. In reverse order, I'll call for the second time for any other nominations. Seeing no hands, calling for the third and final time. Still no hands. I'm going to close nominations for the position of First Vice President. Will White, will you accept the nomination?
With humble thanks to my nominator, I accept. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Then I will call on Charlotte McWilliams. Will you accept the nomination for the role of First Vice President?
With thanks to my nominator, I do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Charlotte. I will now move to Scott Cloney. Scott, do you accept the nomination for the role of First Vice President of the MGEU?
Yes, with great thanks to my nominator, I do accept.
Thank you very much, Scott. Okay, those are our candidates for First Vice President. I will now move to the role of Second Vice President and open the floor for nominations. Again, a reminder, delegates, put your hand up and give us your name and your local when you come on. I see Jody Gillis. Jody, you're muted for us. Jody, alternatively, you could type in the chat your nomination to our virtual chair because we know for sure it's you because your name is attached. So if you'd like to try that. And then I'll read it out for the delegates. Thanks for everybody's patience as we sort through a new world. Jody has nominated Doug Troke for the position of Second Vice President. I'll now call for the second time for nominations. Seeing no hands, I will call for the third time for nominations. Seeing no hands, nominations are closed for the role of Second Vice President. Doug, do you accept the nomination?
With thanks to my nominator, I do accept.
And I think a congratulations is in order, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, folks, thank you very much. I'm now going to open the floor for nominations for the role of Third Vice President. So again, just put up your virtual hand and give us your name and local when you come on. I see that Amanda Macbeth is our next delegate to speak. Hi, Amanda.
Hello, my name is Amanda Macbeth. I'm the president of Local 420, and I'm honored to nominate Shelley Wiggins for the position of Third Vice President.
Thank you very much, Amanda. We'll now move to Shirley Russell. Hi, Shirley.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can, yes.
Okay. I'm Shirley Russell, Local 405, Area 5. I nominate Penny Ann Wainwright for Third Vice President.
Thank you, Shirley. I'm now looking to Delegate Kasali Akili. I apologize if I pronounced that incorrectly. Hi.
No, that's correct. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, we
Hi,
can hear you. Please go
I'm
ahead.
Kasali Akili. I'm a steward with Area 7. I'm a steward with Area 7, Local 47, and I nominate Christina Kwan for third vice president.
Thank you very much, Kasili. And now in reverse order, I will look to Chris Kwan. Hi, Chris. Do you accept the nomination for third vice president?
Yes, I do, and thank you to my nominator.
Thank you, Chris. I'll now move to Penny Ann Wainwright. Penny, do you accept the nomination for third vice president?
I do, with heartfelt thanks to my nominator. Good luck, candidate.
Thank you, Penny. And now I'll move to Shelley Wiggins. Shelley, will you accept the nomination for third vice president? Hi, Shelley. We can see you now, Shelley.
Thanks to my nominator.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much, Shelley. Thanks, delegates. I will now open the floor for nominations for the position of fourth vice president. I would like to recognize Delegate Bob Wells. Hello.
Hello, my name is Robert Wells. I'm the Area 4 Director. For the position of fourth Vice President, I would like to nominate Ed Miller.
Thank you, Bob. I would now like to recognize Diana Stafford, delegate. It just takes a little bit of time, delegates, because they're looking for the pictures on the screen so that we can see you. Diana, your camera is on. Can you unmute yourself? At least I think, although I can't see you yet. Is there a little slidey thing you can open?
Hi.
Hi, Diana. We can see you now, and we can hear you too.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Diana.
Hi.
Please go ahead.
My name is Diana Stafford, resident of Local 178, and I would like to nominate Stephanie Swain for fourth vice president.
Thank you very much, Diana. There's another, I don't see any other hands up right now, so I will call for the second time for nominations for the role of fourth vice president. I would like to recognize Penny Wainwright. Hi, Penny.
Hi, sorry, I'm having problems here today.
It's okay.
I'm the president of Local 362 for Area 5 and would like to nominate Shirley Russell.
Thank you, Penny. And now in reverse order, delegates. Shirley Russell, do you accept the nomination for fourth vice president?
Yes, I do. Thanks to my nominator.
Thank you, Shirley.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you very much. Then Stephanie Swain, do you accept the nomination for fourth vice president? We can see you.
Hi there. With great thanks to my nominator, yes, I do.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then Ed Miller, do you accept the nomination for 4th Vice President?
Great thanks to my nominator. Yes, I agree.
Thank you, Ed. All right, nominations are officially closed. And thanks to all the delegates and the candidates who've put their name forward. Before we go on to the next portion of the agenda, we're going to be asking DOTS to do another quick test vote for folks to get a little more practice. Delegates, please scroll down to the secure... Oh, sorry. My apologies, folks. There's a order of the day that I've missed. And I will turn the chair to Michelle.
Yes, the orders of the day. We have to make sure we're including those. So at this time, I would like to call on Bob Wells to present the report of the Credentials Committee, please. Bob, are you with us? And there he be. And you're unmiked.
Hi, my name is Robert Wells, and I'm the Area 4 Director and a member of the Convention Credentials Committee. On behalf of the committee, I provide the following report. The total number of registered delegates is 223. The total number of official registered observers is 7. As of 12:30 p.m., there were 207 registered delegates in the virtual hall of the convention, and there were 3 official observers participating. I move acceptance of this report of the Credentials Committee.
Thank you very, very, very much, Bob. I definitely appreciate that. Do we have a seconder? It has been moved to accept the Credentials Committee. Could just raise your hand. And I believe we have a point of privilege. If the point of privilege could please go into the chat and let the virtual chair know what's up, please. Thank you for that. I am still looking for a seconder on our credentials report. Raise your hand and then talk to our virtual chair. It's these wonderful little slow dimes. There we are. I am seeing Steve Rosnowski has seconded the credentials report. It has been moved and seconded that we accept the credentials report as presented by Bob Wells. And I would ask the delegates to please go ahead and vote. It'll take a couple of seconds. You'll get it up on your screen. Again, folks, page 101 if you need a reminder on exactly what's going to be needed to do. You refresh your ballot, and once the poll's open, cast your ballot, make your vote, and then ensure that you hit confirm. Always remember, hit confirm for your selection in order to be submitted successfully. Again, that's page 101 of your delegate booklet. So, and the vote is open. I understand. You should be able to go ahead and vote. And for anyone that is having technical difficulties coming back into convention from lunch, please contact Data on the Spot, toll free, that number again, 1-833-368-7111 or MGEU support at dataonthespot.com. And again, that information can be found on the back cover of your delegate booklet. So, just a reminder, delegates, we're doing the 30-second warning now. Get that vote in, please. And that has passed. So thank you once again to the Credentials Committee. That has been approved. I've been asked to just remind the delegates, please, once you've raised your hands and you've been addressed, please lower your hands so that the virtual chair is actually able to know who's up next, what's happening. So we would go with that. I do have a point of privilege before I turn things over to the Finance Committee. So Michael, you have a point of privilege? Michael Haddad?
Okay, can you hear me? Can people hear me? Hello?
Ken, welcome.
Hi, Michelle, how are you? My name is Mike
Great.
Haddad. I'm from, hello?
Yep.
Oh, hi, my name is Mike Haddad. I'm from Local 14, Area 7. I've been activist for 27 years. Just want to make a point of privilege. There's some concerning things amongst a group of coworkers that I work with and other people as well. Is that the MGU, I guess in this case, I just want to say, kind of says failed us as corrections specifically, is that there was no really mention anything in the reports to convention about the largest COVID outbreak in kind of any facility, including hospitals and whatnot. We had over 300 cases at Headingley, including staff and inmates. They're still suffering today. And it would just have been nice of them to report it in the convention report or minutes. Even in the speeches this morning would have been nice. The only other thing I'd like to say is that going forward, like in the past, in 1996, when we had the Headingley riot, Peter Olford, the head of the MGU at that time, did put a lot of effort into focusing on the recovery of staff. I don't feel that that this has occurred so much to the effect it was in the past that it should have been to this time. So just making that point. Going forward, I would hope that the new elected or re-elected, whatever you want, president would focus a little bit more on some of the actual facts that are happening out there. People are still suffering from this. So it's a global pandemic. And, you know, we were hit the hardest out of any MGU members in the province. And I'm not discounting the fact that people in healthcare and hospitals and other facilities that had to have the same type of results. But we were hit the hardest with regards to volume and numbers, and still continue to this day. And just the other fact is that it was our members that came to the MGU, and when we were provided with outdated masks, we're the ones that did that, and there really wasn't too mention about it in the papers as well too. So that's all I'm saying. Just want to make a point of interest. It was kind of a point of discontent and concern from members that I represent, the members that I talk to and work with day in, day out for the last 27 years. So thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you very much, Michael. And I dare say you've reported on it. Definitely appreciate that. And of course, we had hundreds of locals that had outdated masks. Definitely appreciated yourself, along with others that came forward to make sure the MGE knew that we knew that this needed to be dealt with. So again, thank you very much for reporting on that. And we do respect each and every group that has had to deal with some form of this outcome from this pandemic, whether it's from working from home, whether it's cutting of hours, whether it's been suspension of positions, whether it's been down in the dirty actually dealing with COVID victims. So definitely appreciate hearing from you, Michael. Thank you so very, very much. And with that, I am going to turn the chair over to Shelley Wiggins, who is then going to be calling on the Finance Committee. So, Shelley, this is all yours.
Thank you very much, Michelle. And moving right along to the Finance Committee, I'll ask our second Vice President, Doug Troke, and the Finance Committee Chair to give the financial report. Doug.
Thank you, Shelley. The role of the Finance Committee, as indicated in our bylaws, is to provide general supervision over all union financial transactions. The committee is also tasked with preparing budgets, making recommendations regarding dues rates, developing financial policies, and reporting these to the board. Also, the committee prepares budgets and financial results, and those also go to the board. Today we will be reviewing the report to convention, which is in the delegate booklet under the Finance tab. We will also be presenting the audited financial statements, and these will have been mailed to you shortly after the board approved them at their last meeting. We will be appointing our auditor for the next period between conventions. We will also be approving our 21-22 budget, and I would like to take this moment to introduce the committee members. From Area 1, Les Siskowski. Area 2, Glenn Bondrick. Area 3, Dean Werbisky. Area 4, Brian Wilson. Area 5 was shared by Shona Litke and Shirley Russell. Area 6 was represented by Jonathan Lipson. Area 7 was Patricia Romaniak, and Area 8 was Jean Nemeth. Staff support is provided by Jean-Guy Bourgeois, Director of Internal Operations, Brent Smith, Controller, and Judith Cruz, Accounts Payable Administrator. I would like to thank the committee and the staff for their efforts over the past 3 years. As indicated in our report, I would also like to welcome the new locals to the MGEU since our last convention. The last 3 years have not been without challenges. We approached these challenges with priorities, and our priorities were protecting the services we provide to our members, as well as minimizing the impact to our dedicated staff. Through sound financial management, we have been able to accomplish both of these. I would like to also report that our defense fund remains strong at $37.6 million, which is up from $32.5 million at our last convention. We utilized funds from our contingency fund for the Keeping Liquor Public, and we will access these funds as necessary to protect our members from further privatization efforts. A new conventions and conferences fund was created. This fund will smooth the impact of conventions and conference costs on our annual budgets. And it would also improve the reporting of these expenses to the board and to convention. If you haven't already read the report in the delegate book, I encourage you to review it now. Thank you. At this time, it is moved and seconded by committee that we accept the Finance Committee report as presented in your delegate booklet.
Thank you, Doug. The committee has moved and seconded the financial report as provided. Is there any debate or any questions for the committee on the report? If you'd like to ask a question or make a comment, please make sure that you raise your hand and advise the virtual chair that you'd wish to speak. Okay, we have Penny Ann Wainwright. Penny, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Doug, I just had a few questions. As the 2019 report was not originally included, we just kind of all got a chance to look at it. There's some pretty large kind of glaring discrepancies here. It kind of would have been nice to have them a little earlier. I know if this was a municipal budget, this would not have flown over without everybody getting to look at all the years. And I understand it was difficult with all the things that were going on, but it would have been nice to have it included earlier, is all I'm saying. There's a big operating discrepancy of $1.921 million between 2019 and 2020. Can you go into that a little more?
Thank you for your comment, Penny. Because we are not reporting directly on the 2019-2020 statements right now, I can take your information or your question. I will get the details on that, and I will report back later during convention to you on it.
Thank you, Doug.
Okay, are there any further questions or comments specifically about the finance report as presented? Again, make sure that you raise your hand and let the virtual chair know if you wish to speak. Okay, we have Kyle Ross. Kyle, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Kyle Ross, Area 7, MPI, component director as well. I have a question about the defense fund. Like, defense fund growing by $5 million while we're under attack seems kind of asinine. Isn't that money there to protect our members? And we've been really under attack these last couple of years. And I'm just trying to understand, how come we're not using the defense fund to defend our members? Thank you.
As I indicated earlier, the role of the Finance Committee is to provide oversight. How the budget is spent is up to the Board of Directors, and that is by the provincial officers and the remaining board members. As items come forward from the board, they are costed out and the analysis is given back to the board, and they are then able to make an informed decision on whether to proceed with an expenditure. So I think that question is probably best brought up at a board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. We now have Doug Waldron. If you'd like to unmute yourself so that you can speak to convention. Okay, Doug Waldron, go ahead. You need to make sure that you are unmuted and that your video is started. So we aren't able to hear you and your video is giving issues right now. We can't hear you right now, Doug. If you could unmute your microphone, please.
Let's try this again. My name is Doug Waldron from component number 10, area 7. The question is the Finance Committee have any guidance on the types of equities or ETFs they can engage in, specifically union or green or climate change and not oil? That's my question.
If I got your question correctly, we do have a policy for our investments, and that is we use the ESG, so environmental social governance policy, which is imputed into our policy. So no, we do not invest in any companies that are anti-union. We do not invest in oil or fossil fuels, and we do not, so we do have policies. I would be more than happy to share them with you, but yes.
Okay. Thank you for that, Doug. Are there any other speakers who wish to speak on the finance report? Okay, we have Wayne Billenduke. If you would like to unmute your microphone and make sure that you turn your camera on. Go ahead, Wayne.
Hi, Wayne Billenduke, Stewart, Safety Health Rep, Local 456, Area 2. I'd just like to actually concur with what Kyle said there. I've been looking at the financial statement here. And if you look at 2019, we had 4.9 million in the defense fund, then that was spent. And then 2020, 818,000. And then in 2021, 77,000. To me, that's a glaring flag raiser. I understand you think that should be brought up at a board meeting, but I just want everybody that we need some answers on that. To me, that's a huge dereliction of the obligation that this union has to defend its members. And one person, myself, went through grievance, and that was denied. That arbitration. It really makes me wonder what's going on in the defense fund when the union is really all about defending people and their rights. And so that's just something I want to spread out there, spread the word, so be it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Wayne. One thing I do want to clarify, Wayne, is there are a lot of the campaigns and expenses similar to the one that you just mentioned for yourself that are covered under our regular budget. So they all of those expenses do not come out of just the defense fund. There is a campaigns budget that we run regular campaigns from, and there's a legal budget for arbitrations and those types of things. So it's not that it's not being done, it's just that you don't see it in the defense fund, you see it on the regular budget.
Okay, we have Virginia McKee next up at the microphone. Please unmute yourself and introduce yourself to the delegates.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Virginia.
Virginia McKee, Local 37, Area 8. Also on the same subject as Kyle and the previous speaker, I was noting in the Auditor's report, in the notes, it does make clarification about, sorry, I'm waiting for this document to open so I can be clear. So it does clarify the defense fund and the contingency fund and their purposes. The defense fund is related to defense of union members for grievances and strikes. Contingency fund used for expenses to fight privatization, layoffs, and other threats to members' jobs or manage unanticipated contingencies. So I think that might explain some of what we're seeing, although it might be helpful perhaps in future for us to understand better how in this report we are understanding grievances, and it may also be worth looking at the policy around how we do spend those funds. I just wanted to draw attention to the notes in the auditor's report so that everyone is seeing all the information and we look at it fairly. Thank you.
Thank you, Virginia. I think maybe one of the points that you made, which is a good one, and I've already started thinking about how that'll change for the next convention, is maybe as part of the Finance Committee's report, we can have a few brief line items that'll explain how much money has been spent on arbitrations in the last since the last convention, how much has been spent on the campaigns against privatization and other things. And that way I can have it for you in a brief, straightforward, so that it's easy to read. I know there's 5 pages of notes here and things like that, so I will use that input to improve the next report for convention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doug. And our next speaker is Scott Clooney.
Hey, yeah, this question is for Doug and, well, I guess the committee through Doug. I'm just wondering, I'm noticing on these sheets that our outside legal fees, they're getting really high. Like we're up near almost $1 million a year. We employ 2 full-time labor lawyers, and I'm wondering if the committee has either received any direction or studied or maybe given direction to the board that if there's any feasibility to us hiring more in-house lawyers rather than spending, $1 million a year on outside lawyers. And I'm going to get ahead of you a bit because I know some of that is related to the court challenges, but also even if you look in years where that's not a heavy part of what we're doing, we're spending an awful lot of money hiring Myers Weinberg and other groups and they're very good and they're very smart. They're significantly more expensive than having in-house lawyers. So I'm just wondering if there's been any look at that in the committee, or if you've been given that direction, or if you've thought about giving that direction to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, we have in the past looked at the feasibility of hiring, excuse me, hiring another staff lawyer. Some items that they deal with are of a nature where the lawyer itself would be in a conflict being one of our staff people, so we do that. The public defense has been a fairly expensive item on the financial statements for the last couple of years, and I suspect if the desire is to go to the Supreme Court, that will result in additional expenses. Further to your question, again, it's one of those things that we do review on a regular basis to see if it is feasible to have enough work for a full-time lawyer. So I can put that on the list of things to do for the incoming Finance Committee. So if you want to be on the Finance Committee, make sure to make it out to your area council meetings, and you can come and join us and do some of the heavy lifting. Thank you, Scott.
Okay, we have another speaker, James Alexander. If you could turn on your camera and unmute yourself, and make sure when you're done speaking, please lower your hand.
Hi there, James Alexander, Local 14, Corrections. So I just had a quick question about the membership dues. So between 2019 and 2021, there's about a $4 million loss in membership dues. I'm wondering how much of that we could expect to change post-pandemic, if any, or is it all a permanent loss of membership?
Thank you, James. As you're aware, with Bill 29, there was a loss of membership to the MGEU, and that has resulted in a fair chunk. There is expectation that there will be more members moved out of our union without a vote this time, which is unfortunate. Just looking at my notes here, I know we lost 8,794 members in that Bill 29 vote. So I would expect that things will start to level out, but if this government continues to allow people to retire and not replace them, then that will force down dues. And we have been a couple of years in the civil service without contract. So if we don't get raises, then our dues don't go up for the union. So there's a number of factors at play here, James, but I assure you we are doing many scenarios to see how our dues will pan out at the end of the year. Thank you.
Okay, and our next speaker is Amanda Macbeth. Go ahead, Amanda.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to call the question, please.
So the question has been called. So we need a seconder for the call the question. Is there a member who is willing to second calling the question? If you're seconding calling the question, make sure that you let the virtual chair know. Okay. Virginia is seconding calling the question. Okay, so the question has been called. It has been moved and seconded. So we are going to go to a vote on calling the question. So we'll just need a little bit of time for data on the spot to get the ballot up and ready for us. Make sure that you have stayed logged into the voting platform. If you have been logged out, make sure that you re-enter your voting credentials and your password, and then click on next vote. And we will have the ballot ready for the call the question shortly, and then you can vote on that to let us know the decision of the floor. If you are having any issues, make sure that you contact data on the spot, and they can help you with your voting issues. Okay, delegates, just giving you a 30-second warning to complete your opportunity to vote. Make sure that you hit confirm to ensure that your vote counts on this calling of the question. Thank you. Okay, delegates, thank you very much for voting. As you can see, 87% cast their vote in favor. This vote requires 2/3 majority, and so the vote to call the question has passed. So we will close debate on the Finance Committee report. I would like to remind delegates that if you are have previously had your hand raised, to lower your hand so that we know if this is a new hand up. And so we will be asking the vote to be prepared for the delegates. And Kathy Evanshin has her hand up. Okay, sorry, it was lowered. So if we could ask for the ballot to adopt the finance report to be prepared, and we will vote on that shortly. So just keep in mind again that you will have to click next vote once the the ballot goes live, so that you can participate in this next vote. And this vote will only require 50% plus 1 to pass. And if you are having any technical difficulties, please contact Data on the Spot toll free at 1-833-368-7111 or email MGEU support@dataonthespot.com. And the poll is now open, so please click next vote and make sure to cast your ballot. Just a reminder to all delegates that there's 30 seconds remaining in this vote. So please make sure that you have clicked next ballot, and also make sure that you click confirm so that you get the success report to confirm that your vote has been received. So just the last few seconds here as we finish voting, and then we will let you know what the results are. And thank you very much, delegates, for voting. The finance report has been passed. I'm going to ask Doug to just address the question that Penny Wainwright had. So Doug, go ahead.
Thank you, Shelley. For Penny's question, I think it referred to the 1920 year end to the 2021 year end. And that the largest impact on that was from the pandemic. You know, our most of our in-person meetings and different things like that came to a screeching halt, as everyone is aware, and that would have had an impact. If that isn't the answer or the question that you were asking, Penny, I would ask that you would put your question in writing and get it to our virtual chair, who will then forward it to me, and I will address that later. One other thing about the Defense Fund that I do want to make sure that everyone's aware of is that the main reason or the majority of the Defense Fund is there for a strike fund. So if we have a large group go on strike, that will result in strike pay being paid out of that fund. So, and it does go down quite quickly when you have several thousand members on strike. So just to keep that in mind. And if you'll indulge, Shelley, I will move on to the auditor's report now. Our next order of business, we have Kelly Ukrainic from Book and Partners, and they will present our audited financial statements. And I would invite Kelly to present that report now. Oh, it says the auditor is not in the meeting at this point. Okay. Okay. And just to let everyone know, there has been a change in the person from Book and Partners who will be reporting on the audit. Kent McQueen will be stepping in for Kelly today, and Kent was the senior manager on the audit. So he is very well versed on, and he has been the senior manager on the audit for several years. So he is well versed on our financial statements. We are just waiting to get him up and running here.
Hi, Doug.
Kent is. Hello, Kent.
Hello,
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Sorry about that. Kelly had to step away last minute, so it will be me presenting. It sounds like you've already had some discussions about the numbers, Doug, so I'll give it a high-level presentation if that's okay with you.
That would be fine. Thank you.
Okay. Do you need me to share my screen?
Yep, I think that was the intent is Kelly would share his screen and then walk through the financial statements.
Okay.
As well, the delegates have been provided this financial statement.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that. So on the screen should be the title page. My name again, Kent McQueen. I'm Senior Manager at Book and Partners here in Winnipeg. We are the firm that audited the financial statements for the year ended July 31st, 2021. So you're looking at the title page. The second page in the document is the table of contents, which just details everything that's in your financial statements and where they are found. The third page, it's actually numbered page number 1. That is the independent auditor's report. So that is our report after completing the audit on the financial statements. And you will see at the top of the page, it is a clean opinion, meaning we did our audit and we did not find anything materially wrong. That is what you want. You want an unqualified or a clean opinion. So everything looks good. That is page 1. Page 2 goes on to talk about responsibilities, the auditor's responsibilities versus those charged with governance. That is page 2. Signature at the bottom. And then we're on to page 3. And that is the statement of operations and changes in fund balances. So because I had to zoom out a bit, I will be jumping around a little bit, but your excess of revenues over expenses for the year ended July 31st, 2021 was $4,278,939 versus $3,669,407 in 2020. We'll go back to the top and we'll give the breakdown of the revenues and the expenses. So the revenue total for 2021 was $20,443,61 versus $22,007,537 in the year before. And that is made up of membership dues, $19,318,320, and interest and dividends, $1,085,209. And there's some realized gains on disposal of investments, $36,832, gets us to the total revenues, $20,440,361 versus $22,007,537 the year before. In the middle of your page, those are the expenses. So the biggest one are your operating expenses, $16,528,208. Those are detailed on the last page. I'm not going to flip there at the moment simply because of the way I have this zoomed out. Amortization is the next one, $330,325 versus $359,491. And then we're at defense. That is $77,629 versus $818,781. The next one is severance pay, $155,195 versus $866,610. And then we're conventions and conferences, 71,268 versus nil in the prior year. And contingency, 208,395 in 21 versus nil in 2000. Get you total expenses 17,371,020 versus 19,366,304. And I apologize, we're bouncing around. It's a little hard to follow, but that's what we can do. That gives us excess of revenues over expenses before other items, 3,069,341. And then we have unrealized gains on the investments of 1,209,598, gets us down to net surplus for the year, 4,278,939. We started the year with total surplus 37,519,935. End of the year 41,798,874 versus 37,519,935 in the year before. Now we go on to the next page. This is the statement of financial position, page number 4. You will see that it details the various funds across. I'll start with the total column just to give you the summary. Total assets at the end of the year is 50,012,703 versus 44,126,906 at the end of 2020. And that is made up of, again, current assets cash, 2,604,588. The investment portfolio, 40,020,052. Receivables, 837,747 versus 936,105. And interfund receivables, that's just the receivables back and forth between the various funds, 4,588,987. Merchandise inventory, 127,495. And prepaids, 216,821 for total current assets, 48,395,690. Capital assets, 1,117,012. And then the investment in Union Center Inc., $500,001 gets us to the total assets, 50,012,703. At the bottom of that page, there are your liabilities and your net assets. So your liabilities are made up of current payables and accruals, 4,842, and the corresponding liabilities between the funds that matches the assets up top, 4,588,987. Current liabilities, 8,213,829. We come down to the fund balances, invested in capital assets, 1,128,917. And we have internally restricted, 40,247,313. And unrestricted at the very end, 422,644. Gives us the total 41,798,874, and the total liabilities and fund balances have to match your assets, $50,012,703. Now we move on to page 5. This is a statement of cash flows. There'll be less jumping around. You start with your excess of revenues over expenses for the year, 4,278,939. You've got amortization, 330,325. Realized gains on disposal of investments, 36,832, and you've got the unrealized gains on investments, 1,209,598. Change in non-cash working capital in the middle of the page is 331,191, gets you to 3,694,025, and then you've got the investing section at the bottom of your cash flow. Purchase of capital assets during the year, 101,520. Purchase of investments during the year, 11,560,036, and proceeds from disposal of investments, 7,629,454, get you to the overall decrease in cash, 338,077. You started the year with 2,942,665. So the end of the year cash position, 2,604,588. So that was page 5. Page 6 then gets into the notes. No real changes to the notes from the prior years. Note 1 is the purpose of the organization. Note 2 goes through significant accounting policies, describes the fund accounting that the union does, has a definition for the various funds that I'm not going to go through, but they're listed there in 2A. 2B is the revenue recognition. Nothing has changed in that policy year over year. C talks about inventory. It's valued at cost using weighted average cost method. D is the investments, what they're comprised of. They're carried at fair value on the statement of financial position. 2E, investment in Union Center. The union has elected the cost method to account for its investment in the Union Center. F, financial instruments. The union's opinion that is not exposed to significant interest rate, credit, currency, price, liquidity, market, or other price risk arising from its financial instruments, except as disclosed in note 4. So we'll get there in a minute. 2G, amortization. That just describes the basis on which your capital assets are being written off over time. H is about accounting estimates. They're involved in every set of financial statements. Note 3 on page 8 just talks about the cash and the available line of credit, the limit, and what's been drawn down on the security. No change from prior years on that. Note 4, that gets into a little bit of detail of the fair value versus the cost of the investments. You'll see for the Defense Fund 2021, fair value $39,017,799 versus $36,270,004 on a cost basis. And for the Severance Fund, fixed income securities and funds, $1,002,253 versus a cost of $1,011,234. And then there's some verbiage below that, just talking about some of the interest rate risks and market risks that we won't get into. 5 just details the receivables. Included in the operating fund receivables are membership dues of $364.03. Note number 6, capital assets. That just shows the original cost and the accumulated amortization to date for all your capital assets. You've got a book value of $1,117,000. Note 7, that's the investment in Union Center Inc. 1 Class A voting share for $1, 500,000 common non-voting shares for 500,000. It represents an approximate 11% ownership interest. Note 8, those are the commitments for premises and office equipment for the various periods until 2027. It details that by year. 9 is the note about any contingencies, various legal actions. Note 10, that details the interfund transfers that are at the bottom of the statement of operations, which was the first page we looked at. It just talks about the transfer for the various funds, but I won't get into the specifics, but it's all laid out in note 10. 11 is the pension plan disclosure that's required. Just talks about the obligation that's on the books at the end of 2021. Talks about it was actuarially determined at the end of 19, so there'll be another report due in the next year or so. And the last note, note number 12, is the catch-all note that applies to everybody on the planet. COVID-19, the global pandemic, basically says it's ongoing, and nobody really knows yet what the eventual economic results will be due to that. And because we were jumping around before, I won't get into the schedule of operating expenses. Those are the breakdowns for the expenses that ties back to the general fund on your statement of operations. Those are your financial statements for the year ended July 31st, 2021. I will again turn it back over to, I believe, Doug.
Thank you very much, Kent. I would just like to let the delegates know that as part of governance, the Finance Committee does review these audited financial statements with Book and Partners prior to it going to the board. And as part of good governance, we also have what's called an in-camera session with Book and Partners without staff. That allows Book and Partners to share any concerns they may have regarding the audit, and I also for the committee to make any requests of Book and Partners. We also meet with them before they complete the audit with any concerns that we would have. And I can report this year that there were no concerns from the committee, and Kent can confirm that there were no concerns from the auditors on those financial statements.
Correct.
Thank you. So that being said, it is moved and seconded by committee that convention accept the audited financial statements for the year ended July 31st, 2021.
Thank you, Doug. It has been moved and seconded by committee to accept the audited financial statements. Is there any discussion or any questions for the auditor on the statements? If so, please raise your hand and we will acknowledge you if there are any questions. Okay, I see Stephen Rusnowski. I will ask Stephen to unmute himself and turn his video on so he can ask his question.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Thank you for the report, Kent. Are we just remind, I'm just trying to figure out whether we're redoing our proposal for renewing your contract, or is it we still have a couple of years left?
I believe that is will be upcoming on the agenda, I believe.
Okay, very good. Thank you. And thank you for your hard work.
No problem. You're welcome.
Okay, are there any other questions for the auditors on the financial statements? Okay, we have, seeing no hands raised, I'm going to ask that the ballot be prepared and that as the audited statements have been moved and seconded by committee, we will go to the vote to accept the audited financial statements. So please make sure that you are refreshing your screen by clicking next vote, and we will let you know when the ballot is ready to go. Having any issues again? Okay, sorry, the poll is open, so please click next vote. And if you are having any technical issues, you can contact Data on the Spot toll free at 1-833-368-7111 or email mgeusupport@dataonthespot.com. So please go ahead and cast your ballots. Okay, delegates, just letting you know that there are 30 seconds remaining on your opportunity to vote on the audited financial statements. If you haven't already voted, please click next vote. And also make sure that once you vote, you can press confirm to get your receipt for a successful vote. Okay, and as you can see, our results are on the screen. 97% voted in favor of accepting the audited financial statements, and so that motion has passed. Doug, your next item.
Thank you, Shelley. The next item we have on our agenda is the appointment of our auditors. Brother Rusnowski had alluded to it. Each convention, we appoint our auditor for the period following convention until the next convention. It is moved and seconded by committee that we reappoint Book and Partners as our auditors for the period following convention until the next convention convenes.
It has been moved and seconded by committee for the reappointment of the auditors. Is there any debate or any questions regarding the appointment of the auditors? If so, please make sure that you raise your virtual hand and contact the virtual chair to let them know that you wish to speak. Okay, just giving a minute to see if there are any hands. Seeing no hands raised, I'm going to ask that the ballot be prepared to accept the motion as moved and seconded by the Finance Committee, and that is to reappoint Book and Partners as our auditors for the period following convention until the next convention convenes. So please refresh your screen for the current ballot, click next to vote, and we will let you know once the ballot is open. And again, if you are having any technical difficulties, make sure that you contact Data on the Spot. The ballot is now open, so please click next vote and make sure that you cast your vote in favor or opposed to adopting or appointing Book and Partners as our auditors. Okay, there is 30 seconds remaining on this ballot, so please make sure that you are clicking next vote and casting your ballot so that you can have your say in our auditors. Okay, thank you, delegates, for participating in democracy. 97% have voted in favor, and so that motion to reappoint Book and Partners as the auditors for the next audit cycle has passed. And I will turn it back over to Doug.
Thank you, Shelley. The last item that the Finance Committee has is the budget for 21-22. Just to give you a bit of a feel for it, the budget is made up of smaller budgets. So each department, each group, if you've ever been on a committee, you realize that your committees all have to submit budgets that are then included with our main budget. So I will move and second by committee that the budget be passed. And as with prior conventions, there may be proceedings at convention that will change the budget or have an effect on the budget. So it is customary to table it at this time, and it will be lifted from the table on the last day of convention, and the budget will then be voted on then. So it is moved and seconded by committee, and then concurrently it'll now be tabled by committee until the end of convention.
Okay,
and just, oh, sorry, and just one thing, that is in a separate tab in your binder. Sorry, I should have mentioned that first.
Okay, so for those of you that are looking for it, the budget is on page 57 in your delegate booklet, and it has been moved and seconded by the committee that we table the budget until the end of convention. There is no debate on tabling a resolution or motion, so if you would click next vote for the most recent ballot, and we will vote on tabling the motion. So if the ballot could be prepared for that, and the ballot is now open, so please click next vote and make sure that you vote in favor or opposed to tabling the budget, and then make sure that you click confirm as well so that your vote is recorded. Again, delegates, as with other votes, this is the 30-second warning to make sure that you have your opportunity to vote on tabling the budget. So please take that opportunity, click next vote, and also make sure that you are confirming your selection after you voted. Thank you again, delegates, for participating in that, and that vote has passed with 93%. So the budget has been tabled to the end of convention. It will be one of the last items we deal with before adjournment tomorrow. Okay, I am seeing that we have a hand up from Darcel Lecoq, so if we could go to Darcel, please. Darcel, go ahead if you could unmute yourself.
Hi, just a quick point of order on that last vote. Sister, be careful when you're giving directions, because you did say vote in favor and then click confirm your results, and we shouldn't be telling people how they should be voting. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, brother. I apologize. I should have also mentioned to vote to click on opposed if you were not in favor of tabling that motion. Thank you for that reminder. Please also, though, delegates, be reminded that if you are wishing to raise a point of order, that you do need to let the virtual chair know that, and don't just raise your hand. You have to communicate with the virtual chair. Let them know that you are raising a point of order so that we can ensure that that is addressed appropriately. Thank you very much. And thank you to our delegates for participating in that debate and the discussion about our finances of our union. Thank you to Doug and the entire Finance Committee for all of your work over the past 3 years. And I'd also really like to thank our dedicated MGEU staff members, especially in the Finance Department, for all their contributions as well. And I'm going to now turn the chair over to Michelle again quickly before we go on our break. Thank you very much, delegates.
Thank you, Shelley. That was awesome. Thank you, Doug and committee. And thank you, delegates. So just very quickly before we do go on a break, but this is something that is major important, and it's an MGEU tradition at our in-person conventions to recognize past members who have contributed outstanding service to the union, our union, their membership, and the labor movement with our Honorary Life Membership Award. Normally, these awards are presented at our evening convention gala banquet that we normally would hold, but sadly, there is no in-person this year, so we aren't able to hold the gala. Hopefully soon, we'll be able to start getting together, but I do want to take the opportunity to recognize two very dedicated activists who have given so much of their time, energy, and their lives to our union. I'm very pleased to recognize Marlene Horechka and Pat Williamson as the recipients this year of the MGEU's Honorary Life Membership Award. And as we go in for a short 15-minute break, we have a slideshow that we have prepared honoring these two sisters, and a special thank you again to both of them for their lifelong commitments to us and our union. So with that, congratulations to Pat and Marlene, and we will resume convention proceedings in 15 minutes. Thank you, delegates. And again, thank you, sisters, Pat and Marlene. Thank you so very, very much for the many, many years you've given us. So the last official business of the day today is going to be resolutions on the Constitution and the bylaws. And it gives me great pride to invite Charlotte McWilliams, MGEU First VP and your chair of the Constitution Bylaw Structure Committee, to be joining me here on stage. Charlotte.
Thank you, Michelle. Just so you guys know, you don't have to adjust your sets. I am shorter on the screen at the podium than everyone else right now. I apologize. I twisted my knee a couple weeks ago, so I'm having to sit for this portion. So I'd like to draw your attention to page 59 in the delegate handbook. Just to note, included, you guys also had your Constitution and bylaws book, should have also been in your delegate package, but we're going to be focusing on the delegate handbook for right now. Before I get started, I'd like to introduce the Constitution, Bylaws, and Structure Committee, starting with Area 1. So from the Great White North, Umberto Wilner, Corrections Component. Area 2, Cora Meyer, Community Support Component. Area 3, Barb Stambuski, MASC. Area 4, Beverly Gibbs, Trades Component, and she had replaced Brent Curry, who is from EMS. Area 5 is currently vacant, but previously it was Jesse McNeil, Tech Professional Component. Area 6 is Stephanie Swain, Community-Based Social Services Component. Area 7, JP Lapointe, MPI, and Area 8 is currently vacant, but it was previously held by Amy Warner-Brown from Post-Secondary Education. I am Charlotte McWilliams, and I chair this committee. With us, not with us, is, okay, we're not doing the pinning, sorry. I'd also like to acknowledge our staff representative, Wes Whiteside, and legal assistant, Sarah Mason. I also like to extend recognition and heartfelt thank you to Lorraine Clark and Bonnie Neal, who both retired. I wish to say that the committee appreciated their support and knowledge, and we hope you are enjoying retirement. So getting to the report, the dates that we met are listed in the report. We can add September 27th and October 14th, 2021 to that report. During our first meeting, we set out a few goals that we wish to accomplish. First, we needed to finish the master index project that was in its final stages. So the previous committee had developed this master index, and we were just putting the finishing touches and going to make sure it got implemented. So we updated the document, and it will be included in your 2021 our Constitution and Bylaws booklet. We discussed some observations from 2018 where there appeared to be some frustration over the referrals of resolutions and what happened to them if they were not dealt with at convention. Our committee developed a presentation that walks you through the resolution process from beginning to end. This presentation allowed us to collaborate with the Membership Education Committee, MGEU educators, the communication staff, and the board of directors. Our intent was to have our committee complete the presentation at area council and be available if requested to assist presidents with their local meetings and component directors with component meetings. The presentation, there's two versions, there's a standalone and there's a voiceover, is ready for when we do have our resolution meetings. Convention 2018 referred a few resolutions to this committee for review and report back. So if you go to page 60, you will see where it says CR2. The MGU will review the member-at-large numbers and determine if there is more representative process that can be used to determine numbers of members at large. Upon completion of the review, any recommendations forthcoming will be presented at the next convention. The committee did not make any recommendations to increase or decrease the member-at-large ratio or formula to bring to convention, but recommend that it remain as is. CR 14. The MGU will reevaluate its non-political affiliation. The committee recommended to maintain the status quo of a non-partisan affiliation. CR 26. This is unfinished business from the convention of 2018 that required a report. CR 26 concerning a 3-year convention cycle has been brought back to this convention, and it is now number CR 5. A report from the ad hoc committee established at the direction of Convention 2018 will be presented when we do this resolution. So this is, even though it's a constitutional resolution, it was not part of the Constitution, Bylaw, and Structure Committee. So we will be reporting when we actually go to CR 5. Our committee volunteered at the MGEU sponsored concert for the 100-year anniversary of the 1919 Winnipeg General Strike, as well as during the summer of 2019. Our committee was tasked to review the structural change process for the healthcare intermingling votes. And then COVID-19 made its appearance. Jean-Guy Bourgeois, Director of Internal Operations, provided a timeline and an overview of the impact of COVID-19 at the new delegate orientation. I'm going to spare you all by not repeating the same information to all of you guys. However, when the board of directors and this committee was forced to deal with the issues raised by the pandemic, if you go to pages 45 to 47 in your delegate handbook, it shows the timeline on what we were doing there. We had the benefit of legal advice and guidance from Myers, specifically from Garth Marang and Kirsten Werbanski. Given the delegates are being asked to make important decisions about similar matters, particularly with resolutions 1 and CR1 and CR4, we thought delegates should also have the benefit of hearing from legal counsel on the legal principles and issues that the board of directors and the Constitution and Bylaw Structure Committee had to take into consideration regarding the decisions made. For this reason, we have invited Garth and Kristen to make a brief presentation to you, the delegates, about the legal issues raised by CR1 and CR4, that is, the legal issues raised, when the pandemic restrictions prevented the union from doing exactly as the Constitution prescribed, and the legal issues that needed to be considered when drafting emergency provisions for the Constitution. I now invite Garth and Kristen to make a brief presentation, and following the presentation, delegates will be given an opportunity to put questions to Garth and Kristen. Then I will resume my Constitution and Bylaws report. Is Garth and Kristen joining us by video?
Well, Garth is getting set up here, and we're going to get his mic working. I am, as stated in the delegate hand guide on page 101, if you wish to speak to the mic, you will be required, please, to raise your virtual hand, then indicate to the virtual chair of the Zoom chat what you would like to speak to. For example, again, if you wish to speak at either the pro or the con mic, you must indicate that in the chat, or the chair is not going to be able to recognize you. So we are going to go with that one. For other folks that are getting in, it's a reminder for tech support to please contact Data on the Spot at 1-833-368-7111 or at the MGEU support at dataonthespot.com. And again, the information is on the back cover of your delegate booklet. We're going to give Garth a couple of minutes. I think he might be switching offices to see if that's going to help him out. So we will take a quick break, and we will get back to you, delegates, as soon as we are able to have legal counsel on with us. So with that, we'll take a break. And thank you once again, delegates, for your patience. I think we've got everything connected up, ready to go. And I'm going to look. There is Garth, and I have a funny feeling we're going to hear his awesome voice in seconds.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Go ahead, Garth.
That technology can be beaten eventually. So I will then begin my portion, which is going to deal specifically with the decisions made by the board that have now resulted in resolution CR1, which is the resolution where you are being asked to ratify these decisions. When I'm finished, I will cede the chair to Kristen, and she will talk about the emergency measures opinion we provided in terms of constitutional resolutions CR4. So regarding CR1, as everyone is aware, the pandemic began the second week of March 2020. On March 20th last year, the Manitoba government declared a province-wide state of emergency under the Emergency Measures Act, which limited public gatherings to 10 or fewer people. As a result, it was at that time unlawful for MGEU to take a number of critical steps that were required towards planning for its biennial convention, which was then, of course, scheduled to happen in person in October 2020, including holding spring meetings under Article 30, sub 3 of the Constitution, and then ultimately having an in-person convention in October, unless, of course, the government changed or loosened the public health order by October. So as we know, the pandemic and its effects changed dramatically on almost a weekly basis throughout 2020. It became clear fairly early on that a long-term plan based on predictable future public health orders that would be in effect was going to be basically impossible. In other words, every week there was something new, it was getting better, it was getting worse, the government was reacting, and it was pretty topsy-turvy. So your constitution, like many other union constitutions in Manitoba and in fact across Canada, did not contemplate the inability of the union and its locals to comply with the obligation to meet every second year in October at a biennial convention and to adequately prepare for that process by holding necessary meetings of locals, area councils, component executives, and standing committees. So we were asked by the union to provide advice as to how MGEU could work within or as close to the parameters of its constitution and bylaws in light of the circumstances that existed in the spring of 2020. At that time, the most immediate concern was the local meetings that were required to be held between April 1st and June 30th in preparation for the convention. We provided a written, lengthy legal opinion to your union based on our analysis of Canadian case law, where courts had considered unions acting within and outside of their constitutions, and particularly where there was a situation where, due to unforeseen circumstances, a union was unable to strictly comply with its constitution. And the courts have told us that there is an expectation where a union cannot follow the black letter of its constitution due to circumstances such as this, that it would at least follow, fundamentally guide the fairness, transparency, and also the union and its daily business can still be conducted. So Canadian courts have held that internal irregularities in the administration of a union, even if they are contrary to its charter or its constitution, are not grounds for nullifying a decision if it's made in good faith and if it's subsequently ratified at a general meeting, in this case, the convention. I see my video has been turned off. I take it you can still hear me? Yes?
Freezing,
Okay.
so, yeah, thank you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So our opinion was, no matter what option the leadership chose, it should bring those decisions forward at this convention to be adopted if a majority of the delegates voted in favor of ratification. And if so, then these decisions already made by your board, once ratified by the convention, become as if they were made at the convention. We canvassed, in our opinion, 5 possible options that might be available and the practical realities that apply to each. So the 5 options we looked at were trying to hold the spring local meetings completely electronically. And there were a number of hurdles with that, not the least of which is we were just starting to get used to this technology. You can see 18, 19 months on, it still doesn't work flawlessly, and there were going to be real problems trying to hold spring local meetings across Manitoba electronically, given the newness of the technology and some of the internet service realities that affect particularly areas of the province outside of the major cities and towns. So that was going to be problematic. The second option we looked at was conducting the spring local meetings entirely by mail. So mailing everything out. Again, that raised a number of practical issues with regard to the democratic process and speech making and elections of delegates and things like that. The third option we looked at was conducting the local spring meeting in September. In other words, if we hedge our bets and wait and see how the summer goes, could we sneak them in September and still hold a convention in October? That, of course, was going to be dependent on the future, and I think the view of your folks was that the future was too uncertain, and in hindsight, of course, that was the right choice, because by September we were again in the second wave and things were ugly after a fairly decent summer. The fourth option was to hold a special convention pursuant to Article 17 entirely electronically. So actually have the convention, but do it electronically as a special convention. That also raised logistical, security, and timing issues. And the fifth option was to delay the convention and related meetings completely, which you've done. And that's what a number of other NUPG affiliates across Canada had elected to do when they faced the same issue in the spring of last year. So that last recommendation was the one that appeared to us to make the most sense. It balanced important standards of governance with legitimate ongoing concerns regarding safety, as well as ensuring that the convention, when it was ultimately held, would be run properly and effectively and democratically. So this is the recommendation that was ultimately adopted by your board of directors, and it's reproduced on pages 46 and 47 of your delegate booklet. We were also asked to provide an opinion as to whether the board has authority to make decisions after the expiry of the 2-year term of its members. We were asked to take into account that under the Constitution, not only the board, but additionally almost all union leadership and governance positions, such as local table officers, stewards, area components or local directors, and standing committee members, are elected at convention or at the first meeting following a convention for a 2-year term, all of which would expire prior to the next convention being held. So this pandemic issue gave rise to a fundamental contradiction under your Constitution, in that all of these terms expired before the required election could be held to elect the next slate of officers. And the Constitution did not address what was to be done in those circumstances. In our legal opinion, we cited case law arising from the legal doctrine contract law of the law of frustration should not be complied with. There was a contradiction that meeting both requirements. Yet, in accordance with the intentions of the drafters of your Constitution, would not have intended that the union would be thrown into chaos in circumstances such as this, which would potentially result in having no union officers in place for an extended period of time to conduct the day-to-day and ongoing business of your union. So in the circumstances, it was our opinion, we gave this to your union in writing, that the Constitution would allow the board to postpone the convention, thereby extending the terms of all union leadership and governance positions elected at the last convention until the next convention could be held. And that could be done under the general power of carrying on the union's day-to-day business, which is Article 23 sub 3 of your Constitution. This, we said, would resolve this internal contradiction, would not throw your union into chaos, and would allow union business to be carried on until a convention to be held. So those are the legal opinions we provided to you with regard to those matters. So I will, subject to your direction, just move the chair over to Kristen Morbanski, who will talk about the emergency measures that we are recommending you do adopt into your constitution.
Thank you, Garth.
Okay, thank you. We'll see if we can get through this without the computer system shutting down. Okay, so I'm going to be speaking to CR4, and that's at page 96 of your materials if you want to turn to it. This is the emergency powers article, proposed article. And the background here is that our office was approached to provide advice regarding the development of an emergency powers article for the Constitution, with the specific goal of enabling the MGEU to deal with unanticipated emergency situations like the current COVID-19 pandemic, which interfere with normal constitutional processes. So as Garth just outlined, like many union constitutions, MGEU is not unique in that the Constitution was silent about what is to be done where the Constitution can't be complied with due to emergent circumstances of some kind. In this case, the unprecedented circumstances presented by COVID-19. So an emergency powers article, like the one that's before you, really serves to provide a clear and transparent roadmap within the Constitution itself for the union to follow if it's faced with such an unanticipated situation in the future. So that there is actually a process within the Constitution that can be followed to address those types of circumstances. And having an article such as the one before you also allows explicit safeguards to be built in. And the message that I received, that our office received in looking at this issue and what made sense in terms of a draft article was that every potential safeguard that we could identify, the Constitution Committee wanted incorporated into the article. So that was the approach that was taken. So I thought I would just highlight a few key points to note and understand about the article as proposed. So first, the question would be who is it that's empowered under the Constitution to exercise these emergency powers? And in our view, the Board of Directors was the logical entity within MGEU to exercise this authority, given that the board is already empowered under the Constitution to carry on the union's day-to-day business, and that's that Article 23.3 that was referenced already. So it's the board that has the authority under this draft article. Next, what is the scope of the authority in terms of emergency powers? And the proposed article allows for the temporary suspension of any provision of the Constitution and bylaws. The scope of authority could have, theoretically been much narrower, restricted to something like the power to simply adjourn certain types of meetings or something of that nature, for example. But the problem with taking that narrow approach is
we're not hearing her. So delegates, I believe I'm not yet. Thank you. Sorry, delegates. We seem to be having a little bit of trouble. It looks like their video is buffering and we've tried to shut it off. It's still not fixed up. We want to make sure that you are able to hear what they are saying. That was the whole reason for bringing them in. So we're going to take a little bit of a break again. We're going to consult with Garth and Kristen, figure out what the problem is, and we will get them back on the screen for you so that you can hear what's happening. So, and we apologize to Garth and Kristen, or they're apologizing to us. We're just not quite sure. So convention will resume as soon as we can get things back up and running. Here's an opportunity to quick grab a coffee, a tea, go to the bathroom, check the dog, check the kids. We'll be back shortly. Hello once again, delegates. We are back up and running. We're going to give this another another shot. They say 3 times is a charm. And I see Kristen on the screen with Garth behind her. So, yay! All right, we'll try this again. All right. So, Kristen, back to you.
Okay, sounds good. And I think Jean-Guy said I was cut off around the point in time I started talking about the safeguards. So I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but the point that I made further to including an emergency powers article in the Constitution itself is that it allows explicit safeguards to be built in. And the message that I received was that every potential safeguard that our office could identify, the Constitution Committee wanted incorporated into the article. So that's the approach that we took. So now, key points to note and understand about the article. First, the question would be in developing this, who is the entity to exercise the emergency powers under the article? Who's the entity empowered to deal with emergency circumstances should they emerge? And our perspective was that the logical entity within MGEU to exercise this authority was the board of directors, given that the board is already empowered under the Constitution to carry on the union's day-to-day business under Article 23.3, which was mentioned earlier. So, second point, scope of authority under the article. As drafted or as proposed, the article allows for the temporary suspension of any provision of the Constitution or bylaws. The scope of authority could conceivably have been much narrower, restricted, for example, to the power to adjourn meetings. But the problem with this approach is that we don't know what might present a problem until the union is faced with it and forced to deal with the situation. And then you're kind of back to the drawing board in terms of not having a process within the Constitution itself to address the emergency circumstances. So the idea underlying this broader scope of exercise of emergency powers was that it provides flexibility to deal with those circumstances that we can't predict. None of us, or certainly I didn't see a global pandemic coming. And so who knows what the next equivalent to that will be. The next point to consider is the circumstances in which emergency powers may be invoked, where the authority may be exercised. So as drafted, the emergency powers may be invoked where, as a result of urgent and unforeseen circumstances, compliance with the provision of the Constitution or bylaws that is to be suspended would be unlawful, reasonably present a danger to the health and safety of the membership, cause significant damage or loss of union money or property, and or would be similarly unfeasible to comply with. So these circumstances are drawn actually from the types of circumstances in emergency measures legislation that is applicable to government's exercise of emergency authority, such as the Emergency Measures Act. And then the sort of catch-all at the end, similarly unfeasible, again, allows for or accounts for the unanticipated, and the inclusion of the word similarly ensures that the unfeasibility that's being dealt with has to rise to the same level or similar level of seriousness as the other circumstances that are included in the list. And then the safeguards that I mentioned. So there are a number of them. First, a 2/3 vote, majority vote, is required by the board in order to exercise the emergency powers. So this is a higher threshold than that which applies to other board business under the Constitution. And this reflects both the significance of the decision that's being made and creates an additional hurdle in order to exercise the authority. So that's one. Another one is to include an express requirement, as this article does, that any exercise of emergency powers must be done in a manner that minimizes non-compliance with the Constitution and bylaws and is consistent with the board's duty to the membership to conduct union business in a way that ensures the democratic, responsible, and effective administration of the union. And so these requirements are made express, but they are consistent with the principles that Garth was discussing earlier in terms of any divergence from the strict letter of the Constitution or bylaws. A further Safeguard is a reporting requirement. So the article, as you can see, requires that the board must report any exercise of the emergency powers under the article and the justification for same to the membership as soon as reasonably practicable. So this serves the principle of transparency and ensures that the membership is kept in the know about any exercise of the article. And then finally, there's a requirement that compliance with the Constitution and bylaws resume as soon as reasonably practicable. So it's a temporary measure only. And in any case, there's sort of an additional layer of protection that, where, in any case where the board has exercised the powers to suspend a provision of the Constitution or bylaw, and 3 months is coming up, where that provision has been suspended, the board is required to hold a new vote, again at the higher 2/3 threshold, to determine whether the circumstances continue to justify the suspension. So this requirement entails, sort of forcing the board to revisit and reconsider the issue anew on a regular basis to ensure that exercise of the emergency powers is still warranted to the same extent. So with that being said, I think we're open for questions in terms of anyone that might have any about either resolution.
All right. Thank you so much, Garth and Kristen, and thank you, delegates. Our patience, I think we are getting there now. We would like now to open up the floor for questions of our legal counsel before we continue on with the committee's report. So we have a question from Scott Cloney. Scott.
There we go. Sorry, it would let me unmute for a second there. This is, I think, for Garth, because Garth's speaking to the first resolution, right? Does it change your legal opinion on the constitutionality or legality of this convention that we're missing a key part of what we generally do at conventions, which is resolutions from our members at large? There's not a single resolution submitted by any local. It's all from the board of directors and one from the Constitution Committee. So we have not done essentially there's really two main goals of every convention, and we've only done one of them. So I'm just asking if that changes anything or if that was taken into account.
Please.
I can only tell you that wasn't taken into account. We did not question.
Thank you. Any further questions? Penny Wainwright. Penny. There you are.
Hi, the host was not allowing me to unmute. Can you explain to me the scope of authority here? It's very, very vague and broad. What constitutes unseen or urgent here? There's an inherent fear in granting absolute powers to any one group. The only group that has that is an absolute monarchy. If you have absolute power, you can control absolutely everything. Reasonability is very broad, and what I would consider reasonable, you might not consider reasonable. It says the board must report as soon as reasonably practical. That could be a number of months later, at which point it could be another number of months later. I really do not like this.
Okay, thank you for your question, Penny. And Kristen, it looks like you're in the chair.
Yep, for sure. So I think that was kind of a two-parter or a multi-parter. So I guess I would disagree with the proposition or sort of the underlying proposition that this is an absolute authority to the board, providing the provisions, the emergency powers article confines the authority within the wording of the article itself. So reasonably practicable does, have an interpretive meaning, a meaning of law, and it means exactly what it says, as soon as it's reasonably practical to do so, which I in terms of reporting requirement, it's difficult for me to conceive of circumstances in which that could extend over a number of months. The recourse, of course, always exists if the Constitution is not being complied with through legal means, through internal, union governance means, to address either of those, to address any non-compliance with the Constitution, this provision included. And then I think the layering of language in terms of the circumstances in which these powers could be invoked are intended to build in, to reflect the very limited circumstances in which they would be appropriate. So urgent, unforeseen, these are important watchwords that go along with the list of circumstances that are set out. So for example, the reasonably presented danger to the health and safety of the membership. These types of circumstances, as I indicated, are drawn from emergency measures legislation that applies to governments. And so that's the standard, similar standard that is being looked at here, which is intended to be a high bar.
Okay, thank you, Kristen, very, very much. And we have a couple more speakers coming up. I would remind speakers, please say your name and the local and where you're from. And we have Donovan. Donovan.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Donovan DiBattista, Area 7, Local 14. My question is in regards to CR4. With the ability for us to hold this convention currently as it stands virtually, would you not say that the current constitution would be suitable enough to be able to deal with further emergency responses, considering we can hold conventions electorally, local meetings, virtually? I mean, the current constitution says that the board of directors can hold a special convention, and then we go back to being virtual.
Kristen, I think that's
the end. Okay, I'm sort of freezing up a little bit, so I just wanted to make sure the question was at an end. So the question being is the ability to hold this convention virtually sort of a complete answer? I would say I don't think so, for a couple of reasons. One, yes, the ability to hold this convention virtually existed under the Constitution, but the problem was the way that circumstances presented themselves in terms of the timing leading up to the convention.
So, Kristen, you're breaking up. Are you able to shut your video off for us so that we could hear you?
Processes or the sub meetings that needed to happen in order to get to her. Is that better?
We're going to give it a shot.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, just one moment. Okay. So yes, as I was saying, the issue was not the authority to hold the convention virtually, but the logistical realities with the meetings that needed to take place at the various sort of sub-levels, the local levels, the committee levels, et cetera, leading up to the Constitution, in order to be able to hold it in a manner that was compliant with the timing under the Constitution and included the requisite lead up. So a departure from the Constitution, although it could strict letter of the Constitution, although there was an ability to hold it virtually, was necessary. And so given that it's hard to predict what emergent circumstances might present themselves in the future, we don't know whether that's an answer to the situation or not, or whether the board and the rest of union leadership will be sort of thrown back into having to deal with things without the roadmap that this type of article provides. That's the concern that is seeking to be addressed, to provide a way forward that everybody understands is the process to be used and that provides safeguards in terms of the exercise of that authority.
Okay, thank you very, very much. We have another couple of speakers up. We have Janelle. Janelle, you're local and your name, please.
Hi, Janelle Torgerson, local 67 with MPI. Hello. So I'm just curious why the first response was to go out and look at how to suspend the Constitution. Is this really the solution that is for the 21st century? We find ourselves with technology that makes it more easy than ever to commit to democracy. And what was the choice made? The choice made seems to be, let's suspend the Constitution. That's from the 20th century. There's no reason we should be doing that in this day and age. If there was some sort of natural disaster, let's pretend. That is truly exceptional. And is this the sort of constitutional change that we want to focus on going forward, where democracy is limited to a board making a decision, where they get to renew it every set number of months? I think we can do better. I think the technology is out there where every member can respond almost immediately. We all have cell phones. I mean, if the cell phones go and everything else goes, we don't have jobs. So all these considerations, I think need to be made. I don't understand why this was the first choice. We're in the future. This isn't the past. Let's get on with it. Thank you.
And again, I didn't see a question in that. So, thank you for your views on that, Janelle. I'm not sure if we've got David Grantham. David, you're up next, please. So again, we haven't moved or seconded anything here. These are the questions for the lawyers. So David, please.
Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, thank you. So my question's strictly around, so for these two CRs, why were they chosen to, why was the choice to amend them together as opposed to separating them? For example, you could have said CR1 could have been for past decisions and CR2 could have been for future decisions. Same thing for CR5, they could have been split into past decisions and future decisions. So what was the kind of the mindset around deciding to put it into one single decision?
Thank you, David, for that. Before we go forward, that I will be giving that over to Charlotte. I'm just asking, which local are you from, David? Oh, okay. Just a reminder, delegates, when you're coming up. And I know it's not the easiest thing to remember, but please give your name and the local that you are from. But Charlotte, do you have some response?
I do. Thank you, Michelle. Okay, David, so what I'm hearing, I was having a little trouble hearing, but I believe you were asking why they were separate. The reason that we had CR1 separate is because this is already actions that have been done. So we have already done this. We have already postponed convention, everything that goes with postponing convention. It has been done. So what we're doing is we're bringing this to the convention floor to ratify the decisions that the board of directors had made in lieu of the circumstances that we were faced with at the time. CR4 is more of a resolution that's on a go-forward basis. Should we find we are in similar circumstances again, this is something where we're not going to be breaking our constitution. We're going to have language that's in our constitution and no longer be silent. So CR1 is, please forgive us, this is what we did because we broke constitution. CR4 is, we're going forward. We would like the language to be able to reflect what it is that we would like to do, provided that the convention floor agrees to that language. I hope that answers that question.
Thank you very, very much, Charlotte. Okay, so we have Virginia is in next. Virginia, any questions for the attorneys? Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Virginia McKee, Local 47, Social Services. I want to thank the committee for their work on these constitutional documents. I'm sure that this was, obviously unforeseen, and It would have taken a lot of scrambling and thinking and research to understand how to manage this situation. I do understand the need. Oh,
It's okay. We can hear you.
you can hear me? Okay.
I
do.
can, yeah.
Okay. I understand the need for some emergency provisions and emergency powers for the board under circumstances like we've encountered. I do think that when what I'm hearing is we're going from a situation where our constitution was silent on these matters and a situation like this to a proposed resolution or proposed language that has broad scope that says any provision of the Constitution, and language that provides the circumstances under which those emergency powers would be given to the board is under X, Y, and Z, and anything similarly unfeasible. So I do think what I'm sensing is some discomfort with going from where we were, which was a constitution that was silent on this subject, and yet we managed. The committee managed, the board of directors managed, they reached out to members. We did get the decisions made that needed to be made under an emergency situation. We've come to a convention of a different sort to ratify those decisions. So we made it through with a constitution that didn't have provisions for it. And now we're going to language with very broad provisions. And I'm wondering if we need to make that big a step, or if we can manage to moderate that step with language that is more moderate. So the operation, suspend the operation of any provision of the Constitution or bylaws. I understand that we can't foresee which part of the Constitution might be impeded by a potential disaster. And I do think that disaster is with climate change, pandemics, fires, floods, we are going to see more of these, not less. We do need this kind of provision. But perhaps it is enough to say that the circumstances under which those emergency powers are granted is when the provision of the Constitution would be unlawful, reasonably present a danger to the health and safety of membership, or cause significant damage to loss of money and property. And then go back.
So, Delegate, thank you. And I know we didn't get right to the end of your question. I'm assuming you're asking Garth to confirm that what your understanding is of the resolutions is where we're at. So Garth, does she have a really good understanding?
I think we understood that, maybe I'm wrong, I think we understood that to be a comment on the circumstances in which the provisions could be invoked and a disagreement with, or a suggestion for alternative circumstances. I don't know that we can comment in response to that.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to remind the delegates, please. I know everybody wants to have a say in this, and once we actually get to the positions where we're having some discussion on CRs 1, 2, 3, and 4, they've been moved and seconded, we'll be able to go into debate. Right now at this time, I know we've got Garth and Kristen with us for a limited amount of time to be able to answer any questions that delegates have on the report that's there. So going forward, we have, am I giving it? Okay, we have Wayne. Wayne, you are up. If you give your name and your local, please, Wayne.
Hello, yes, Wayne Billinger, local 456, area 2. Just a question. I'm looking at the language in this proposed amendment, and I find it really overly broad, very ambiguous. And from a legal perspective, I'd like to ask, do you have any intention of including definitions? Because I don't see anything in this language that is definitive. And so that's my concern. If you have something written like this with no definitions of what, and et cetera, then it basically leaves the door open for wide open, wide.
I am going to actually turn to Charlotte on this one.
So,
Charlotte?
Thank you, Wayne. That's actually a very good point. As a matter of fact, when we had talked about it, I know we had discussed definitions when the Constitution Bylaw Structure Committee met. We had really debated around that whole what's reasonable and trying to get definitions and trying to get a finite answer. The reason we went a little more broad with the language is because what we didn't want to do is become very prescriptive in our language within the Constitution, because if we become too prescriptive, then we can't move forward. It could actually tie our hands and actually create a different set of problems that we were trying to resolve in the first hand. I don't think it's a terrible idea to have definitions, but that's kind of the reason why we didn't go with a finite definition with some of the key words. But it's definitely up for review. I mean, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Charlotte. And I believe Kristen also kind of touched on it as well when she talked about it being, a state of emergencies, those kinds of things. So very good point. We have James Alexander is up. Do you have a question for the lawyers, James? I'm seeing a nodding of the head. Thank you for that.
Yes, I do, Michelle. James Alexander, Local 14 Corrections. So I have a question about reasonable practicability. My curiosity in it is when it comes to a mandate, say a public health mandate, that seems fairly direct, that would be in contravention of that. But what about when it comes to a public health recommendation? Where would the union have to fall on that, and who would be making that decision? Would that also be the board who decides where they're going to fall in the line of recommendations put forward by public health? And to that extent, where does that end in terms of a public health recommendation? If we were to see an ongoing public health recommendation into the future about limiting let's say gathering size or whatever, even though it's not a mandate, would that leave the board deciding how a convention were to work? Thank you.
Thank you, James. I look to Christian or Garth. I'm not sure who's going to respond to the question.
Sorry, I think I was muted. There we go. So yeah, I mean, it's always difficult to kind of deal in hypotheticals, which is partly why there is some flexibility built in. So I can only refer to the standard that's set within the provision itself, which speaks to urgent and unforeseen circumstances, whereby a provision of the compliance with the provisions of the Constitution and our bylaws would be unlawful. So James, further to your question, it would be unlawful in that situation, distinction between a public health order and a recommendation. And then the second category, or a second potential category, is compliance would reasonably present a danger to the health and safety of the membership. And so that would have to be an assessment that would be made based on whatever the particulars of the circumstances were, the wording of the public health recommendation, its application to the circumstances of a convention, and a supermajority of the board would have to agree and report to the membership with a rationale under this article as to why that decision was made in the particular circumstances.
All right. Thank you so much, Christian. James, hopefully that has answered your question. I know we have 3 more speakers. I am asking folks if they are questions for the lawyers. That is what we do before we get into our debates here. But we do have Brother Brian Wilson. Brian.
So my comment is actually, I'm prepared to speak once debate is called on CR1, and I don't know if we're at that point yet or if we still have questions for the attorneys.
We have 2 more speakers up, brother, and can we park you for a minute just to see if they have questions for the attorneys? If not, we can step down the attorneys then, and Charlotte can go back onto her report and we can get to our CRs. Are you all right with that?
I will patiently wait.
Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. So Brian will be parked, and we've got Christopher McNeil. Christopher, you're local, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yes, my name is Chris McNeil. I'm with Local 47. My question is twofold. One being, I heard that this was patterned primarily on statute. I'm talking about CR4, specifically the Emergency Measures Act. Now, the Act has a review period of 30 days. So my question is, why was 90 days chosen as the review period? And secondly, I'm curious to know why there was no provision listed as if going to the membership broadly for discussion is, say, impractical, why not either area councils or component executives to have some discussion with the board of directors over their decision to suspend parts of the Constitution?
Thank you very, very much. Excellent questions, and I'm going to refer it over to Kristen and Garth. Kristen and Garth, my goodness. Kristen, please. Sorry.
So the second piece, I wasn't involved in any discussions with respect to that. So I don't have any particular comment on that one way or the other. It wasn't something that was canvassed when we, in terms of my degree of involvement in developing this. And then the first question is, how did the review period come to be? So I think the principle of a review period was an important one. Although the Emergency Measures Act was one piece of legislation that was looked at, which of course is applicable to governments and not unions, so differing, expectations, responsibilities, realities for those two types of entities. We also took a look at other union constitutions that did have something along the lines of some form of emergency power, some ability in that respect. And so took our cues more broadly than simply legislation. I think the first suggestion or concept that was raised was 6 months, and then there was discussion about reducing it to 3, which is what is seen here. And I think that was largely driven by just the ability to be, reassessing the situation within reasonable chunks of time and arranging to hold a meeting with the board to take a revote on the issue. I don't know that there's a particular message to it other than that.
Thank you very, very much. We go to Virginia. Virginia, I believe, would be second-time speaker. So, Virginia, I'm going to ask you to hold for a minute. We have a couple of first-time speakers. Thank you. Richie Gurrell, first-time speaker, and do you have a question for the attorneys? Give us 2 seconds. 2 seconds, Rich. We're just going to do a check here. Make sure that we've unmuted you. I'm starting to see a bit of a pattern here with headphones. Now we hear you. We got you.
Now you hear me.
We got you, Rich. Now we got you. So
I apologize for that.
No
yeah,
worries.
my question is pretty simple. All of our meetings require quorums. And reading from our policy manual, when it comes to the board of directors, it says the majority of the elected or appointed members. Now, hopefully you get 100% attendance, but if you don't end up with 100% attendance, it would be a minimum would be 50% of the people that be entitled to be at that meeting. So in the event you had really low attendance, and you're requiring 2/3 of the people in attendance who are going to go and vote on exercising emergency power. Is that the way it would work? Or are we talking something in between?
Very good question. Garth, Kristen, I'm looking to you for that one. It's a very good point, Rich.
The 2/3 majority vote applies to who is present and voting, just like the majority vote to conduct business would apply to who is there and voting.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Thought that was going to be the answer. Thank you so much. And we have Sandra. Sandra, hello, Sandra.
Hello.
Hi. Love
Hi.
the glasses.
Oh, thank you. My question is a bit different. I'm trying to understand how far we need to go in terms of the putting in something in place for if such emergencies happen, like COVID or whatever. Again, if we didn't have that in place, which we didn't this time, and something like that should happen, what would be the consequences or the liabilities to us that could happen without having something like that in place?
I'm going to look to Garth and for that. Thank you so very much, Sandra. Garth and Kristen.
So one of the reasons that we're asking, or your union is asking for ratification at this meeting of what it's done, is to ensure that on a go-forward basis, those decisions don't get further questioned. If, for example, you don't ratify today, those decisions could be further questioned by people within the union. There have been court cases where people have gone to judges to ask that there be rulings on their complaints about the fact that their union has, in a particular circumstance, not necessarily followed the letter of its constitution. So the reason to do this is really to prevent future controversy and more chaos that could arise depending on a circumstance where your board of directors tries to do its best, but it doesn't have the necessary tools. You know, like when I look at this, I say to myself, the drafters of your constitution obviously never thought that we would be in a situation like we are, because they have given no time or ink, if you will, in your constitution to what happens if the locals can't meet in June, and what happens if we can't get together in October, or even though we can do things electronically, what if we have areas of the province where the internet is so bad that it would be utterly dysfunctional. And so what it does is it brings certainty to future actions. Hopefully it improves the situation so that you can better have the tools in your toolkit to deal with unforeseen circumstances. That's the intention, at least from our perspective. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much, Garth. Definitely appreciate that. One more speaker, Virginia McKee, up for second-time speaker, and then I'm going to go back to Charlotte to finish the report. Virginia.
Thank you. I apologize for not getting to my question before. I wanted to ask about paragraph 1 in the CR4 language. At the end, it says, and or would be similarly unfeasible. What are the ramifications if we were to remove that last clause, or can we change the word unfeasible to something that feels less vague, something that implies the same level of threat? Unfeasible sounds like it's not practical, which is a bit different than something that is imminent.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, and thank you for coming back to make sure that we are addressing your question. And again, I turn it over to Garth and Kristen for this one, and then we'll go back to Charlotte.
For sure, sounds good, and thank you for clarifying that. So the way paragraph 1 is drafted presently is the list of potential circumstances in which the powers can be invoked are set out in sort of a list format, right? So you see where compliance with the Constitution and our bylaws be, I'll number them, although they're not numbered. 1, unlawful. 2, reasonably present a danger to the health and safety of the membership. 3, cause significant damage or loss to or loss of union money or property. So if you remove and or would be similarly unfeasible, then you've closed the list. So those are the 3 possibilities or circumstances in which the emergency powers can be exercised, and if they don't fit within one of those categories, then they can't be exercised. You're sort of back to square one in terms of what do you do. So the last similarly unfeasible is included as a catch-all category to pick up something that may not fit one of the other categories. So generally, interpretive principles tell us that when we have a list and we end with a catch-all, the catch-all has to be interpreted in the same vein as the other items on the list. It can't be, you know, simply inconvenient, for example, because that doesn't rise to the same level as all the other items on the list in terms of, you know, unlawful or a danger to health and safety or something of that nature. So to underscore that point, the word similarly was included to make that explicit, to basically say it needs to be similarly unfeasible, have similar implications to the other items on the list. That's the effect of including that. So if it's not included, then you are stuck with the three options that are explicitly set out. If it is included, it allows for some interpretive flexibility if a situation that doesn't fit with one of the other three categories rises to a similar level. That's the rationale.
All right. Thank you very, very much. And again, thank you, Garth. Thank you, Kristen, for joining us. Definitely appreciate having you with us. And I am going to go back to the chair of the Constitution Committee, Charlotte.
All right, thank you, Garth and Kristen, for explaining the legal considerations for us. Quite frankly, had I tackled that, that would have been a mess. So thank you. I know when to ask for help. Carrying on with our report, I'd like to begin at the top of page 62. We have some housekeeping that the Constitution had presented to the board. At our last convention, a resolution was passed that the Constitution Bylaw and Structure Committee could make housekeeping changes with a 2/3 majority vote from the Board of Directors. We did 4 of them, and they're listed there on page 62 for you. I'm not going to read them for you. The following, if you guys go to the tab, disposition of 2018 convention resolutions, I believe it's near the back of the book. These resolutions from 2018 were referred back to the Board of Directors, and I'm just going to go through them all and let you know what the results were. CR3, the MGU will allow the President of the Union to have the authority to appoint a member in agreement with component, if it exists, or area, if no component exists, to be president of a given local. The committee recommendation in 2018 was one to reject. The Board of Directors' decision was to accept the committee's recommendation. CR4, the MGU will amend the Constitution to allow MGU President to directly appoint a local president when attempts have been made to hold a local meeting and the local can't achieve quorum. The union would have to implement an application process for this to occur. The committee recommendation in 2018 was one to reject. The Board of Directors' decision was to accept the committee recommendation. CR7, the MGU will create the local executive position of area representative, allowing locals who have over 500 members and cover a wide geographical area or apply for in writing to the Board of Directors for consideration to have up to 2 area representatives on their local executive. Could adapt current language used for workplace representative. An area representative will already be a steward. The local executive could decide the geographical boundary of that an area representative could represent. North of Brandon for one, south of Brandon for another. Areas of that geographical area would vote amongst the pool and area representative. The committee recommendation in 2018 was one to reject. The Board of Directors' decision was to accept the committee recommendation. CR9, the MGU will change 2457 of the Constitution bylaws to remove Women's Correctional Center and Headingley Correctional Center from Area 7, thus return both correctional centers to Area 4. The committee recommendation in 2018 was referred to the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors' decision was to reject. CR40, the MGU will consider moving middle management to their own local. The committee recommendation in 2018 was to refer to the Board of Directors. The Board of Directors' decision was to reject. CR41, the MGU will place supervisors in a separate local. The committee recommendation in 2018 was to refer to the Board of Directors, and the Board of Directors' decision is to reject. So this wraps up the resolutions from 2018. On page 64, there are some resolutions that our committee had come up with, but we're not advancing those right now. As we know, we're not doing resolutions. So the oncoming Constitution Bylaw Structure Committee can do what they want with those recommendations. Finally, I want to note that when the delegate booklet was printed, the committee's recommendations on 2021 resolutions, CR3 and CR6, were not available. The committee's recommendation on CR3 and CR6 is to accept. The committee moves and seconds this report.
Committee has been moved and seconded, and Sister, with the committee's indulgence, we do have a delegate, and we are conferring with the parliamentarian right now whether this would be a legal motion to bring to the convention floor at this time, so we're going to give it a couple of moments. But I do want to thank the committee for all of the hard work that they've been doing. The decisions and where things are going has not been the easiest ones, I'll tell you. And the board has been amazing in trying to hold everything together. And I've just been informed the delegate has just withdrawn his motion. So the committee report has been moved and seconded. Do we have any speakers to the report? And again, folks, I ask you to raise your hand. Once you've been identified, then please state your name and your local. Make sure you're typing in to the virtual chair what you and I believe we've got Scott Cloney. Scott, you're back. Hopefully we can hear you. Not yet.
Yep, there we go. No, I was just going to make a suggestion. First of all, that was my motion. I was just going to say to table the report till a later time so we can get to the resolutions, because I noticed the time. But I just want to suggest to the members that, the report is the report. We can probably pass it. I'm sure there'll be some vigorous debate on some of the resolutions. I'm just making a friendly suggestion that we don't get bogged down right now and that we can get forward to the resolutions.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for not making that motion to table it. We will move forward. As I said, is there any other speakers to the committee's report? So funny, I'm used to you looking for people going to a mic. This is way different. Giving folks a chance. Raise your hand if you have any questions to the report. We are not seeing any. Therefore, I am going to call the question for the vote. And again, reminder, refresh your ballot. And once the poll is open, cast your vote. Once you've submitted your vote, please ensure that you're hitting confirm so that your vote is submitted in successfully, and you will get a bounce back that tells you your vote has been successful. So we're just giving it a couple of minutes for Dots to put the vote up. And again, I just want to thank all the delegates for your patience in getting us through this. Virtual is not the easiest. It definitely is a lot quieter. I'd much rather be in a room with 400 of you right now, being able to have some really good, open discussions, conversations, even on the sidelines. So, folks, just waiting for Dots to put up that vote to accept the committee's report as has been presented. Definitely appreciated having the lawyers with us to explain and give us an understanding on where exactly things landed. As soon as we get the vote done, we will go into CRs 1, 2, 3, and 4, time permitting, and the vote is in progress. Cast your ballots, please, vote, folks. All right, folks, this is the 30-second countdown, 30 seconds to cast your vote. Again, refresh your ballot, cast your vote, hit confirm, make sure you're getting that vote successful. That comes up on the screen. And we're going to give it a few minutes. We've got that 30 seconds, last chance for folks to vote on accepting the Constitution and Bylaw Committee report. So congratulations, delegates. That has passed 94% in favor of accepting the committee's report. Thank you very, very much for that. I will go back to Charlotte now for, we have a hand up. Is that a point of privilege, point of order? I'm looking for Diana Schultz. Diana, you have your hand up? Just giving her a minute. Diana.
Hi, yes. Sorry to interrupt. Just one question. You had mentioned that there was a consultation occurring with the parliamentarian. Would you mind sharing with the floor who the parliamentarian is this year? Thank you.
Oh, you must have missed it a little bit earlier. It's David Woodbury has joined us again. We're very, very proud to have David with us again. So,
okay.
Thanks Diana. Thank you for that. I should have mentioned the name again. So sorry. Thank you. All right. I turn it back over to Charlotte for CR1.
All right, thank you, Michelle. CR1. Yeah, that's bad lighting. The MGU will ratify, 1, the decisions made by the Board of Directors to adapt the convention and elections process prescribed in the Constitution in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. These decisions are compiled at the end of the board report to convention. And 2, the extension of the terms of office for all local and provincial union positions elected at and since the 2018 local election meetings and convention through to October 2021 virtual MGU convention. It has been moved and seconded by the committee to accept CR1. And if I just may, I just need to make a point. This resolution to pass requires a 50% plus 1 because it is not an amendment to the Constitution. This is a one-time. Thank you.
It has been moved and seconded by committee that CR1 be accepted. And I see we have some folks that have their hands raised. And again, we're asking folks, let the virtual chair know if you're a pro or a con so that we are able to alternate and have this resemble convention as much as possible. I see Brother Brian Wilson. Thank you for your patience, brother. Join us. And I see Brian.
Yes. So I'm Brian Wilson, and I'm president of Physical Sciences Area 4, and I am a member of the Board of Directors. And I'm speaking in favor of this motion to ratify the decisions. And as I was listening to the conversations that were going on and the questions that were being raised, and I look back at our convention book on page 45, it brings back very much the memories of what we did as a board to make those decisions. And quite frankly, they're very, very difficult decisions. It's not what we wanted. What we wanted when we started in this process in April was to have what we have. And that is a series of local meetings in May and June to have resolutions and to select convention delegates. That's what we wanted to prepare for our live convention that was supposed to happen October. But quite frankly, there was a pandemic. So you heard what we did. We consulted with legal counsel. We heard those opinions. And then the opposition and all of those questions that came in from the board of directors, the other 25 people that are part of the board, we had healthy discussions. We talked about it, and we made the best decision that we could at the time. And at the time in April was the start. If you look back to August, and the August meeting is there, at that time we were down to 1 case in Manitoba. We'd gone 7 weeks with no cases. We haven't had a day like that since. Today's 50 people, another death in Manitoba. COVID is still with us, and we make those decisions based on what we have. So that's really, I'm going to say, these are very difficult decisions. We had well-attended board meetings. We always have well-attended board meetings of full quorum. We have healthy debates. We consider pros and we consider cons. At the end of the day, when we make a decision as a board and we vote, we go forward with those decisions. So the decisions we made are in your booklet on page 45, and we just ask you to ratify the decisions that we made. And you know what? They probably were not perfect decisions, but based on what we did, the 25 people on the board, that was a majority vote.
Very, very much, brother. Appreciate that. And we have Deb Jamerson. Deb, you're up. Welcome. Just waiting for her to unmute. You're still muted. There we are. Give it a try. Yes.
Good day. Deb Jamerson, legal, local 27, and board member. What I want to say is that the decisions to change and move through the Constitution was not something that I was quite comfortable with. I'm a strong supporter of our Constitution, but recognizing that we were in a serious situation where we could not hold convention, made me decide on behalf of my members that I represent and the MGEU members that would attend convention, did I want to put their lives at risk? And the answer was no. And to that point, I worked with the board of directors to ensure that we could have a convention in a timely manner that is today a positive experience for people. It wasn't easy making some of the decisions that we had to make with respect to when could we hold meetings. Certainly there were people who believed that in our technological world, we have the ability to just strike up a meeting, but we don't. Not always. Not everybody has cell phones. Not everybody has Wi-Fi on their cell phones. We have people who are in northern communities today who are staying in hotels in order to be able to participate. So it's not as easy as it looks. And you had to consider not just those inside the city of Winnipeg, but those outside the city of Winnipeg and their ability to participate. We wanted to do it right. So I certainly support this resolution, its recommendation, and I ask the brothers and sisters to support it too.
Thank you very much, Deb. Yes, not easy decisions that your board of directors made. Jean-Paul Lapointe. Are you with us, Jean-Paul? There he is.
Hopefully I've done that correctly. Thank you, Madam Chair. JP Lapointe, Chief Steward, Local 67 MPI. I'm actually rising with a question, so I guess a point of information. I'd like, and as yet have not heard an answer to this, what will be a simple question, which has a complex answer. I don't feel that we have an adequate explanation of what this convention voting against this resolution will do. What does that mean going forward? And how does it affect what we have done up to this point?
All right, good question. We will definitely, we'll ask Charlotte. Charlotte, you able to respond to that one?
I just need 1 second.
Charlotte is just conferring with a couple of members of the Constitution Committee right now and able to give a full and solid answer to JP. Making sure that he has it. We want to make sure, folks, that we are giving you full answers to the questions that you are asking. All right. And I believe conference is over. So I will turn it over to Charlotte. Charlotte.
My apologies on that one. To answer your question, JP, so the ramifications, if we have a no vote, really in essence, there are no ramifications other than, because what's done is done. We've already gone through this process. That's why we're here today, because of all the actions and decisions that the board of directors has taken. The other thing is that if it comes back as a no, then I believe that's the convention floor basically saying we did not make the correct decisions. So that would be announcing that it was not the right decisions. The other thing too is that if we don't ratify this as well, there could be some legal aspects to this because if people want to challenge us in court, see, I can't do the legalese stuff. This would have been a good question for the lawyers. But basically, there could just be some legal ramifications to it if we don't ratify this as well. So that puts the union at risk.
Charlotte. All right. We have Darlene Adamson. Darlene. Hello there.
Hi, Darlene Adamson. I'm with the clerical component clerical component in Area 5. I'd like to call the question.
Thank you very much. I'm not seeing any other hands. So with the indulgence of our delegate that was calling the question, I am going to go ahead and move forward with the vote, and that'll save us doing one extra vote in between. So thank you, Darlene. Definitely appreciate, and I hope you understand that we'll just move in now into the vote. Dots is getting the ballot ready, and I'm going to remind folks again, refresh your ballot. And if you are having to re-enter, your voter ID and your password will once again be needed. Once the poll is open, please cast your vote. And once you've submitted your vote, ensure that you hit confirm one more time. Get that message back that says to you that vote was successful. And again, instructions can be found on page 101 of your delegate booklet. And the poll is open now. We have a 2-minute timer that's up, so 2 minutes. Go ahead and cast your votes, please. Again. Thank you very much. Welcome back, delegates. And I apologize for any confusion there might have been. Darlene had brought forward to call the question, and normally I would have asked for a seconder should there have been anybody further left to speak. Seeing no other speakers, I asked for Darlene's indulgence to be able to go ahead and do the vote on the resolution itself. So I've got two choices here. I can either back up, undo it, and redo the point of order, and ask for a seconder and to go through all of that. I think what I would like to do, with the indulgence of the delegates, and folks, you're going to let me know if you're okay with it, I am going to go back and reopen the vote on the CR1. There were no speakers left for CR1 at the time that I did call for the vote. So I'm going to go ahead and call. Okay. Then, okay. All right, I'm going to go to, just being in my ear, folks, the little gods are telling me that Darcel Locret from the PA had his hand up before I actually called it. So Darcel, I am going to go to you, please, for that. Darcel.
Yeah, hi there. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Area 7, Local 26, Compliance and Enforcement. And it was just a point of order that it wasn't called for calling the question. It wasn't a vote to call the question or making sure that people were done their discussion before it was brought to the floor. So that was it. I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. Darcel, yes, there were no speakers in the chat. There was no speakers on the screen. And when I looked at that, when Darlene was making her call the question, I figured we'll cut out one of the virtual votes and we would simply go into voting for CR1. I'm going to look for Virginia McKee. You have a point of order. Thank you, Virginia.
No, that took care of it.
That took care of it. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, Virginia. And a point of information, Kyle Ross. Yes,
No,
Kyle.
I'm good. Actually, my question was answered already. So.
Okay. Thank you very, very much. So we will back this one up so that we're very, very clear. It is, and again, I apologize. I went real quick on that one. So we are going to go back to CR1. And it has been moved and seconded. We will put it back up and we will put it to a vote. Again, there'll be 2 minutes. There will not be a 30-second warning on this one because it is only the 2-minute one. And folks, you will be, remember, refresh your ballot. And once the poll's open, cast your vote. Make sure you hit that confirm so that your vote is registered. You'll see that sign come up that says vote successful. So, and again, if anyone does need the instructions, there is page 101 of your delegate handbook. It will be there, and we've got a couple of seconds until the poll is opened. Again, a reminder, there'll be a 2-minute timer and no 30-second warning on this one. Again, if you're having any technical difficulties at all, please contact Data on the Spot, toll free, at 1-833-368-7111. I'm going to know that phone number for the rest of my life. And or you can contact MGEU support. It has passed. Delegates, thank you very, very much. CR1 has passed. 85% voters have recognized that the board did a great job. So you have supported your board of directors. That is wonderful. We will now move on to CR2. Charlotte.
Thank you. Special convention, CR2. The MGU will hold a 2-day special convention in person if feasible within public health restrictions and guidance in June 2022 to consider member resolutions. It has been moved and seconded by the committee to accept CR2. And just to note, this resolution requires a 2/3 as it would be an amendment to the Constitution.
Very much, Charlotte. As Charlotte says, it's been moved and seconded by committee. We do have some speakers at the mic. Kimberly Lynn. Are you there, Kimberly? There she is. Give her a second to unmute.
Okay, sorry about that.
All right.
Kimberly Lynn, post-secondary component, Area 3 board member. Due to the virtual format of this convention, it takes so much more time to cover the business that we definitely need to be covered. Therefore, we're recommending a special convention, and I stand behind this fully because this is a one-off, will only happen in June of 2022, and it's to cover all the resolutions we can't do here, the general resolutions, the emergency resolutions. Things that we can't get done in this very short window of time will be covered in June of 2022. I am not one that likes to do extra conventions for the sake of doing extra conventions, but I highly stand behind this one only because it needs to happen. No matter what happens with the rest of this convention, we need to be heard. Otherwise, we're not going to be heard till 23 or 24, which is way too long to let our resolutions go. Our members are going to think we're not there for them.
Thank you very, very much. Good points, Kimberly Lynn. We have a question. Annette Liss has a question. Annette? Then we will be going back to the mics. So right now we've got Annette. Given a moment. Okay. We are Okay, we have another point of information. Annette is having a bit of an issue with the camera right now. We're going to get that all worked out and welcome Annette into the convention. But right now we have Darcel. Darcel, you have a point of information. You're muted, Darcel.
Got it. Sorry about that.
Ah, perfect. No.
Again, Darcel Lecoq, Area 7, Local 26, Compliance and Enforcement. With regards to the future convention, would it be the same delegates that are already invited to this convention, or would we be going through a whole new election process again for that?
Excellent question. I'm going to look to Charlotte, the chair. Charlotte.
Thank you, Darcel. That is a good question. The delegates that are here today that have been elected for this convention will also be attending the special convention. So there would not, well, I have to be careful because we have a resolution down the road. But just to be clear, I'm going to simplify it. Absolutely, yes, all the delegates here today will be expected to attend the special convention.
Thank you, Charlotte. And Annette, I believe now is ready. Annette, you got your camera. There you are. Welcome to convention, Annette.
Hi, sorry about that. I wasn't wanting to have my video just because I have a very bad internet connection. So hopefully
Okay.
you won't lose me. Annette Liss, Local 144, St. River School Division support. My question was just if it turns out that we don't have as many resolutions as we thought we would we then shorten the convention to 1 day or 1.5 days?
I'm going to look to the chair, and I believe that, you know, once we've got convention business done, we have convention done. But I look to Charlotte for that.
It's a good question. I'm trying not to say the first thing that comes to mind, which is I would be surprised if we didn't have that many resolutions, because historically, previous conventions, we have resolutions that we don't usually get to by the end of convention, and and I know that's one of the frustrations that delegates had, but I guess it's definitely something to consider.
Yes,
But kind
yep.
of like what Michelle said, I guess if we get done, we're done.
Yep, that's what I would think. So, all right, thank you for that. And we have Kyle Ross. Kyle?
Kyle Ross, Local 67, MPI, Component Director. I rise in favor of the recommendation of this motion because our members really need to be heard. This convention is good, and hopefully the next one will be in person because I think that'll be far better, but our members really need to have their voice heard, and those resolutions need to come to the floor and be debated so we understand the direction that we need to go for our union. So I strongly advocate for you guys to vote in favor. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. And we have William White has a question. William. Not used to calling you William. Will, yes.
Will's fine. I just put William because that's what was there.
Okay.
So William White, Area 7, Local 14. I also am in favor of this. However, my question was, Charlotte had indicated that the people that are here today would be expected to attend this special convention later on next year. What happens if people aren't interested or people leave and those spots are vacated? Are we going to be holding another round of elections to get people in, or are we just going to run short?
And I guess this would be the similar with any convention, right? Once a delegate is elected to be a delegate to convention, you're actually elected to be a delegate for the term under the Constitution. But I'm going to go to Charlotte. I'll look to Charlotte to see if she's got any other ideas. But yes, anytime a delegate is elected to be a delegate, you're elected for that term until the next convention, should anything arise. So, Charlotte.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle. You took the words out of my mouth. That is correct. That's correct. The expectation is that you will fill that term, and if there's any vacancies and that kind of stuff, we don't generally hold re-elections to fill those vacancies during the term. It's just they're vacant. But if you recall, or if you guys will look at CR3, we are kind of doing a different spin this convention. It's a one-time only. It's not on a go forward. It's one time where we're addressing the vacancy issues that we are experiencing right now. I believe some of our brothers and sisters and friends have already mentioned how up north or not getting quorums, and we weren't able to fill. So CR3 will actually address that. But just to be clear, typically they're not filled, but CR3 we want to do a separate. Does that? I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Charlotte. And folks, I'm being asked to remind folks to please, when you go into the chat line, let the virtual chair know whether you're a pro or a con, please. So we have Alan Schroeder. Alan, you're up. Second or two to get that mic off. Camera on. Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay, Alan.
Michelle, having a little bit of trouble with my video here, and I'm not sure why. So I'll just go with the microphone if that's okay.
Absolutely, brother.
Okay, thanks so much. So anyway, oh, I think I got my camera up and running. So anyway, Administration Area 7, Local 33, just have a comment and a question. And the comment is really related to the unusual circumstances of this year, and I don't believe this is going to be the last time. I think we're going to be looking at issues that can go forward in the future that are going to be likely similar, maybe even worse than what we've focused or faced this year. Now, I'm just wondering if we can change the wording here, and it's just a question. Instead of having this as being a one only of situation, what if we were to say that we would have an in-person convention in June of the year following a virtual convention held in the previous October, and that would cover off future circumstances where we may need to go to a virtual convention out of necessity, such as what's happened now.
That is an excellent question, Alan, and I'm reading the resolution. I was going to see if you wanted to make an amendment to the resolution, but I believe this resolution is to address, it's a one-time only to address the issues that are here now and the fact that we have not been able to do all of our union business that we would normally do at convention. Are you wishing to make an amendment to the resolution? This is a very specific to deal with the issues that are happening now, and I know there's other resolutions that are in play as well in a bit, but I'm asking you, Alan, if you would like to make an amendment.
Yes, I would like to make an amendment if possible, because there is no sense with we traveling this road again to debate this if we're going to be facing similar or worse circumstances in the future. And this would cover it off. And at the same time, it wouldn't endanger us from not being able to hold an actual in-person convention, but it would be a contingency where resolutions business could be carried out in the following year.
Okay, so you would be actually trying to, so Alan, would you be able to type the wording that you would be looking for the amendment? Hold a 2-day special convention in person if feasible with public health in June of 20. This one is very specific. I am actually gonna, Alan, I hate to do this. It's not my intent, but I am going to rule it out of order, not because I don't want to entertain it, but because this CR2 is very, very specific to be dealing with the decisions that the board made on moving into a virtual, dealing with finance and constitution, and if the board wanted to ensure that there was a way after this one. So I am going to rule it out of order. and know that we've definitely heard you. I do have another point of order. Kimberly Lynn. Kimberly.
Sorry. You have dealt with it. I was going to say it. Oh, sorry, we got
Nope.
feedback. You have dealt with it. I'm sorry. I was going to say it completely changes the intent of this resolution, so it's not acceptable. So yes, thank you very much. It really is out of order.
Thank you, Kimberly. I know that the board, everyone has heard Alan's concerns, and they're very valid, and we appreciate that. Hate ruling people out of order on these. Next up on the speakers list, we have Teresa Hardy. Teresa, can you turn your video on and join us?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't
Hi,
see
can
you
you
yet.
Okay, I'm trying. It's not the best connection
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
One of the things is somebody asked a question.
Teresa, can I
sorry,
can I interrupt you for a minute? Your name and your local, please. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I actually belong to locals, but I'll say local 456. The question came up about if somebody who's at this convention didn't want to go, would they do re-elections? At the meetings, there's alternates always elected also at those meetings. If somebody chooses not to go, would that person be put in the place of somebody who chose or had left at that time?
Excellent point. And Teresa, you're absolutely right. There's alternates are always elected as well when we elect delegates, and that would give them an opportunity then to make sure that that local is heard. That's why it is so important, folks, to make sure that you've got delegates elected as well as the alternates. So excellent point. Thank you very much, Teresa, for that. We have Diana Schultz up next. Diana.
Yes, Diana Schultz, Local 410, Tech Prof and Component Director for Tech Prof. I would like to call the question.
Okay, we're back in one of these situations again, but I'm going to try this one a little different. We have no other speakers, but the question has been called. I'm going to look for a seconder. I believe we might be getting a seconder to call the question. And we have Darcel is seconding. So the question has been called. It has been moved and seconded. I am going to ask delegates to please vote if you're willing to call the question and go to a vote on CR2. So delegates, we're going to give Data a couple of minutes to get this one up. I don't think we were ready, and so we will definitely give an opportunity. The poll will open. It will be a 2-minute vote again. You won't get the 30-second reminder, folks, just to let you know. So as they are writing out the motion to call the question, remember to refresh your ballot, and once the poll's open, you're going to cast your vote. Once you've submitted your vote, make sure you hit confirm and get that message up that says that your vote is successful. So the poll is open. I would ask delegates, please go ahead, cast your votes. Remember, 2 minutes, and you won't be getting a 30-second reminder on this one. 2 minutes to cast your vote. All right, delegates, that has passed by 93%. That's definitely over the 2/3 that's required to call the question. So the question has been called. We go directly into the vote now on CR2. It has been moved and seconded by committee that to move into CR2. Sorry, the wrong CR is up on the screen for me. So you'll have to look down at your delegate, and it is to hold a special convention in June of 2022 to ensure that we can get unfinished business not able to be done at this convention, at that one, and we're all praying it's going to be live. So, Alan, you might want to be bringing it forward. So we are just giving it a couple of minutes, and making sure that the ballot is there. Again, folks, I'm going to ask folks, refresh your ballot, cast your vote. Once you've cast your vote, make sure you're confirming your vote. And once you see that vote is successful come up, you know that you have successfully voted. Again, it's a 2-minute, no 30-second warning, and it is open now. Go ahead and cast your ballots. As you can see, delegates, you have passed with a 94%. That is definitely over the 2/3%. Thank you very, very much for that. So I guess we'll see you all in June of 2022. We do have a point of information from Stephanie Swain. Stephanie. Welcome. Just waiting for that little red microphone to disappear, and we're on.
Hi there. Sorry. Yeah, I think it was because I was trying to unmute myself at the same time they were. Just a point of information for the delegates. I thought it might be helpful for others. I've been using it. When we're having debate on different resolutions or issues, if you click on the participants tab, you can see how many people have their hands up. It shows you beside their names. Just thought that might help going forward for if people are thinking about calling the question or any other kind of thing like that. You can sort of have a look and see, is there still a lot of people to talk, or is there no one else or whatever. But I've been using that and it's been helpful. So thought I would put it out there for everyone else.
Excellent point of information. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, thank you. I have also been asked to remind delegates, if you do want to come in, you do want to be able to speak, you need to go into the chat and you have to pick virtual chair. Let the virtual chair know whether you're pro or con and which CR or what you want to be able to speak on. So again, a reminder, just go into chat and then pick virtual chair, go into there and type in what you're doing, pro, con, point of information, point of privilege, any others. It's just much easier for us to keep track of who's going what, where, when, and we won't miss anybody that way. So thank you very, very much. All right, we are on to CR3 and I turn it over to Charlotte again, please.
Okay, so we are now moving on to CR3. The MGU will add the following temporary provision to Article 18 of the Constitution. During local meetings, January to March, scheduled to vote on resolutions for the 2022 Special Convention, each MGU local may conduct elections to fill any vacant convention delegate positions for the purpose of attending the 2022 Special Convention. This provision will only be in effect if the 2022 Special Convention is approved and will expire after the 2022 Special Convention proceeds. Because it is desirable to ensure locals to have appropriate representation at MGU conventions, because MGU convention, should be representative of the entire membership, and because the virtual election meeting process used in 2021 elected a lower than usual proportion of the potential convention delegate entitlement. It has been moved and seconded by the committee to accept CR4, and I'd also like to mention this resolution requires a 2/3 to pass.
All right. It has been moved and seconded by committee to accept CR3, I believe. And again, committee is to accept. And we have Shannon Reynolds. Shannon, hello, welcome.
Hi.
There you are. Hi.
Shannon Reynolds, Local 43 Social Sciences, Area 2 Director. I stand in support of this resolution. The past year and a half has been a time of great adjustment, and for many, our worlds and our lives were turned upside down. We had to learn new ways of doing things at home, work, and with the union. The virtual meetings were not without hiccups, but these hiccups should not come at the cost of our member-driven democracy. While delegate entitlement spots, and we all know this, that were actually elected, filled in Winnipeg, the South, and rural, those amounts actually decreased by about 10%, but the North was hit really, really hard. They had a decrease of nearly 50% less actually elected delegate spots. And we need to do everything we can to elect as many delegates as we can. Internet access is not always reliably available throughout the province. Some aren't used to using the technology. Some don't have a smartphone, tablet, or laptop. Whatever the reason, we need to do better and find solutions to make the local meetings as accessible as possible so we can include as many members as possible. These are exceptional circumstances, and in exceptional times, I believe an exception should be made. Thank you.
Excellent points. Thank you very, very much, Shannon. Excellent points. We have Kyle Ross up. Kyle.
Hi, Kyle Ross, Local 67 MPI, Component Director. I'd like to make a friendly amendment to add and alternates after delegates, because I believe we should be able to add alternates as well, because I don't think, saying just delegates, we don't get that. And I think, because there's probably many people that are here at this time, and if there's no alternate coming up at the next convention, they will not be able to attend and their group will not be represented. So I think it's really important that we open the door to have as many groups represented as we can. Thank you.
All right, Kyle, are you making a friendly amendment to that then? Because if
I would call it friendly,
committee is, I believe it would be friendly as well. So I'm going to look to the chair, and if the chair, they have moved and seconded the motion. So if they are willing to have this friendly amendment added to it, then we can add it and move forward.
Do you want me to just say?
Yeah. You can, either one.
I concur, it's friendly.
Okay. I have concurrence from our first VP that this is a friendly amendment. Thank you very much for that, Kyle. We are going to add and alternate for it within, and I believe the intent from the board all the way along was to ensure that there's good representation from across this province. Shannon made really good points on that. We have Angela, Janice Angela. Hopefully I haven't butchered your last name. Hi, Angela.
Hello. Yes, you did. Thank you. It's Angela Janice, president of Local 256. I have a question about this. Like we're saying about going towards making new resolutions. What's going to happen to the ones that have already been made? Are they going to be added as well?
At this point, we were not. Well, actually, I'm going to turn this over to the to the chair of the committee. That yes, Charlotte, yours
you
to
like
answer.
You're on a thought. You could just roll with it. 'Cause now I'm distracted. And I don't know what the question is anymore.
So the question was, what happens to any resolutions that are there? And the reasoning that we're actually adding this is so that we would be going out and getting resolutions. Health and safety resolutions, tech change resolutions from our committees, from our locals as well. And we want to make sure that we've got good representation across the province, full representation. So when we go out to conduct these meetings, we would definitely be doing resolution meetings as well. We'd be adding resolutions to it. So hopefully that answers, Janice. The answer is we'd make sure that all resolutions are brought forward to the next. All right, we have a point of information from Cheryl. Mickey, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi. Whoop, hang on. Hi, thank you. I just have a point of information. In the Constitution, it states that delegates elected serve a 2-year term, and I'm just curious as to the length of the term that these new delegates would serve. As per this resolution.
Excellent question, Cheryl. Thank you very much. I am going to turn this over to Charlotte.
Great, thank you. Yes, that was actually a really good question. Typically, when you are elected to be a delegate, you are elected for the term of the convention cycle. So right now, as it stands, it's for 2 years. However, tomorrow we do have the 3-year debate. That's the CR5 that we will be getting into tomorrow. So that could very possibly change. And if we end up into, you would be able to look into the changes okay, now I'm just starting to ramble. The bottom line is right now it's 2. If we do decide to go to, the convention floor decides on a 3, then it would naturally change. That would be part of the change in the Constitution.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Charlotte. I am seeing no other hands, so I am going to call the question. And once the ballot is put up on the screens, I will ask voters to go ahead and vote on CR3. Again, a reminder, refresh your ballot, cast your vote, make sure you voted, ensure that you hit confirm, and that you get the signal out that says to you, you have voted successfully. Again, pardon me, we are going to put that up. It looks like it is open now. So again, delegates, 2 minutes, no 30-second warning. Go ahead and vote now. The ballot is open. All right, congratulations, delegate. That has voted. It took 2/3 to be able to pass that. It passed by 95%. So we do know that we will be able to go out and make sure that we will be electing delegates and alternates for those locals that don't have the full capacity filled up and ready to go. So that is great. So we have done 1, 2, 3, and we have CR4 is our last one for the day, and we will go forward. And I look to Charlotte. Charlotte.
Great, thank you. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, I'm carrying on. The MGU will add the following emergency powers articles to the MGU Constitution. The Board of Directors may temporarily suspend the operation of any provision of the Constitution or bylaws by 2/3 majority vote where, as a result of urgent and unforeseen circumstances, compliance with the provision of the Constitution and or bylaws would be unlawful, present a danger to the health and safety of the membership, cause significant damage to or loss of union money or property and or would be similarly unfeasible. Any exercise of the emergency powers of the Board of Directors under this article shall be done in a manner that minimizes non-compliance with the Constitution and bylaws as far as reasonably practicable, and in accordance with the duty and obligation to the membership to conduct the business of MGU in a way that ensures democratic, responsible, and effective administration of the Union. The Board of Directors shall report any decision made to the temporary suspension of or the operation of any provision of the Constitution and or bylaws and the justification for the decision to the membership as soon as reasonably practicable. Compliance with the Constitution and or bylaws shall resume as soon as reasonably practicable, and in any case where the operation of any provision of the Constitution or bylaws has been suspended for 3 months, the Board of Directors shall, within 2 weeks before or after the expiry of the 3-month period, hold a new vote to determine whether circumstances continue to justify the suspension. Continuation of a temporary suspension of a provision of the Constitution and or bylaws shall require 2/3 of a majority vote. It has been moved and seconded by the committee to accept CR4, and this also requires a 2/3 vote.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Charlotte. We will go to speakers, and I see we have Scott Cloney. Scott.
You caught me mid-typing a message. Yeah, so I'm going to do it right for one time today. My name is Scott Cloney, and I am from Corrections Area 7, so Local 14. I've forgotten to do that every other time I've spoken. I am strongly against the committee's recommendation on this one. I think these powers are way too expansive, and I think that we could do similar things with the problem they're trying to fix with a lot less overarching and a lot less powers just being given away. Our Constitution is our Bible. It is a rule book. It is voted on by you, the members of convention. And there's no time frame where I think it's appropriate for it just to be thrown out the window. And I understand that this group and this board has done a lot of hard work and really hard times. And it's not a condemnation of any board or any person. It's just giving anyone the power to just say, well, we've called a meeting, 2/3 of us here, we have these reasons, but again, we have the one at the end, which is essentially for anybody who works in the civil service, the legal speak version of other duties as assigned. I think it's just opening up way more. And I really want to encourage delegates, if you have questions, if you're not comfortable, if you're not sure, vote no. We can always come back and deal with this at the next convention, or we can always come back and deal with it at the one in June, where we can debate and have all the time we want. I don't think we've had enough time. I think this is too big a change, and this is just too much power. I'm a former board member. I would not want the ability to just throw the Constitution out the window for any reason. So that is my opinion. Again, I think the board has done great work. I think this has been a terribly difficult time. I think this is too much. And I think with a committed constitutional committee working on this for the next term, we can do better than this. So I'm asking you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. We have Deb Jamerson up. Deb. Give Deb a minute for the camera to come on. Reminder to unmute. There she is. And unmute, sister.
Unmute.
There we
Hi.
go.
So I rise in support of this motion. Having been involved in unions for a good many year, and having sat on the board over the course of the last year and a half or more, the board has had to change the Constitution, make some real hard decisions. And I don't want to see another board have to go through that. I believe that by adding this to our Constitution will allow another board at any time during the years of MGEU, when another pandemic, environmental scare comes along, will have in place already the opportunity to invoke those sections of the of the Constitution, to be able to act faster, to be able to respond to our members faster. And I think that many people have said before, we were slow. We could have done a convention in October. We've got technology. We've got all of those things. Yes, we do. But we don't have the power. And I think we're coming out with some really good legal advice with respect to this issue. And so I really encourage the delegates to consider giving power to the board if or when it's needed to be able to act responsibly. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. And I'm being asked to remind delegates, when you are going in talking to the virtual chair, please put in con or pro for where you're going. We have Wayne is up next. Wayne Billenduke. Wayne. Welcome again, Wayne. Giving a couple of seconds for the video to start up. There we are. Hi, Wayne. Are you there? Wayne? I'm going to go to the next speaker, please, and then when Wayne gets back in, we will recognize him right away. We have Kyle Ross.
Yeah, Wayne Billenduke.
Kyle Ross, Local 67, MPI, Component Director. I as it stands, I'm against this. I think it's overarching power, and without giving our members of the convention their due and their say. So I have a proposed amendment to this, and I would say it wouldn't be deemed friendly, but if you'd like me to read it, I will. I can. I have sent it off via the chat as well.
It's in the chat.
But I'll read it.
Haven't seen it.
Okay, I'll just read it.
Go
off.
ahead, Kyle. Yes,
The Board of
please.
Directors shall report any decisions made to temporarily suspend the operation of any provision of the constitutions and or bylaws and justify their decision to the membership via a special virtual convention where convention ratifies or rejects the board's decision within 30 days.
And you've sent that off. So we're going to
Yes.
give a couple of seconds for that to be put into the motion. In the meantime, I'm going to be looking for a seconder for it. I believe he said Kyle has put it into the chat. Thank you for that, Kyle. And I would be looking for a seconder for it, if we have a seconder.
With so many hands up, it's pretty hard for someone to.
Well,
pretty
all they
sure-
have to do is, they just have to let the virtual chair know that they want to second it, and it will be brought in. Any seconders to it? We are not seeing any seconders. No one is coming forward to second it. Dave Hill is seconding. Thank you very much, brother. So it has been seconded. We will add it into the resolution. And that it has been moved and seconded. Therefore, it opens debate on the floor on the amendment, adding the amendment and changing the original CR4. No, we're going to go to a vote. Yeah. All right, folks. We are just waiting for it to come in. Okay, I'm being asked if we can go to a break for a minute so that we can get that wording in there right. We want to make sure we've got this exactly as Kyle has brought it forward. So we're going to go to a break for a few minutes and give our tech folks the ability to be able to pull us together. See you in a couple of seconds, folks. Thank you very, very much for your patience, delegates. We needed to be able to read the amendment as it has been moved and seconded. As much as I hate doing this, I am going to rule it out of order. It definitely is changing the intent. So I am going to rule it out of order. And then we would go back to the original motion. So we'd ask delegates, please lower your hands, folks. And we'll get the wording back into. All right, I understand Kyle Ross is challenging the chair. Accepted? All right, I am going to give us a second so that the second chair, Ed Miller, Brother Ed Miller, is going to join us and he will take over chairing while we get this settled out. All right?
Okay, welcome. Do we have a seconder on the challenge? Okay, we have a seconder, Scott Clooney. Okay, will the delegate state the reasons for their appeal of the chair, please?
Before I speak, can I just confirm it's ruled out of order because it's changing? You believe it changes the intent? Is that why it's being ruled out of order?
Well, I think you've changed it. I don't know if I can rule.
But I'm
on
saying
that
that's why
particular-
I'm asking why I'm being ruled out of order. Because
I
it changes
must,
the intent. Is that why I'm being ruled out of order?
I
That's all
think
I'm
that
asking.
is what has been said.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I can speak to that any further.
Okay, that's fine. That's all I wanted to confirm. I don't
Okay.
believe this changes the intent. The intent of this CR, this resolution, is to give the board in emergency situations the power to suspend. And I did not change that. That nothing in my amendment changes the intent of this motion. The board will still be able to do exactly what this motion intends to do. It just gives a second sober thought. So now the board will have to be, where do I want to use? Well, we have to be accountable to convention if we want to do this. And to me, this is a big thing. It's our constitution. We should be accountable to someone on this, and not we can say we're accountable to our elected people, but that doesn't happen for 2 months or years, even depending if it happened right in the beginning of a term, right? So to me, I really feel that we need to have this second sober thought in this resolution. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. And now we'll hear from the chair, Michelle.
Thank you.
Back just for a second.
All right, thank you very much. I do believe it does, and it changes the intent because there's a time limit of the 30 days, which is, number one, not practical for our staff to be able to pull even a virtual together. The idea is that we would be not having, the board itself would be suspending or moving the convention, which 30 days again, having a virtual meeting to tell everybody that we're actually going to be doing, moving it along or changing it. It's going to be changed for specific reasons. And as it says in there, reasonably practicable. That is, I believe, what the intent is and the full intentions of the board when they brought this forward. This was a board's decision, and they went on legal to be able to, legal recommendations and the wording to make sure that it is there. So that is the reasoning I have ruled it out of order.
We shall now open the polls for the vote, and the question will be, shall the decisions of the chair be sustained? And I want to make sure that you remember to have an issue with your technical support, please contact Data on the spot, toll free. And you've heard it before at 1-833-687-111. Okay. Okay, we're just going to get the ballot worded properly so that we can open the poll to discuss or to vote on this particular. Okay, I'm hearing the poll is now open. So by all means, check down to your voting tablet and carry on and your vote. Thank you. Okay, delegates, we have a 30-second count on the vote. So please scroll down, secure your voting section on the website and click next to vote. Refresh this page, and at this point, the refresh ballot will be displayed if you have not done it already. So you have 30 seconds, possibly 20 seconds now. All right, delegates, the decision of the members is in favor of being sustained. So it was defeated 63%, and I shall choose to return the chair to Michelle, and thank you for your support.
Thank you very, very much, Brother Ed. All right, so we go back to speakers on the original motion, and we have Doug Troke. I see is up. Doug? There's Doug. Doug, you wanted to speak?
Thank you.
To
Thank
the
you,
mic?
Michelle. Doug
Okay.
Troke, Local 030, Administration and Second VP Elect. I would like to make the motion to table this resolution until directly after the order of the day tomorrow, which is the elections.
Yes. All right, Doug, thank you very, very much. It has been moved by Doug to table until tomorrow. Do we have a seconder? We have Alan Schroeder is seconding, so it has been moved and second to table until tomorrow morning after the elections. Thank you very, very much. And I will say, delegates, it's been an interesting one. Cameras instead of people, screens instead of noises. But it has been conventions, so I'm very happy for that. We will reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., I believe 9 a.m. sharp. Before that, though, I believe Janet might have a couple of messages for us, delegates, so give a couple of minutes, and I will stand down the Constitution Committee in Charlotte. Thank you very, very much for that. Sorry? Oh, hang on a minute, okay. Thank you so much. I'm not sure where I'm thinking. It's been a long day. Delegates, hang tough for a second. We do need to go to a vote to table motion CR 4 until tomorrow. It has been moved and seconded. I thank Ed and Alan, and we are just getting, Dots is going to be putting up on your screen, is going to put up, they're going to create the ballot, and they're going to get it going. So again, from the last vote, we would ask you to please refresh your ballot, and then once the poll is open, cast your vote. Once you've done your vote, make sure that you confirm, hit confirm to confirm your vote in. That will ensure that you are going to get a voted successful sign is going to come up on your screen. And if any questions whatsoever on the voting, page 101 of your delegate booklet. So we are just giving it a couple of moments, and I am told that the vote is open. Remember, delegates, 2 minutes. All right, so we are going to be giving a 30-second reminder when the votes are going to close. Again, I will be back to let you know that you'll have 30 seconds to complete your vote. Go ahead and vote now, delegates. As I promised, delegates, this is your 30-second warning. Get that vote in. Make sure you cast your ballot. You're probably down, as Ed had said, you're probably down to 20 seconds now. So get that vote in. Once that is done, we will then move to ending our day today. All right, folks, that has passed. So it has been tabled. CR4 is tabled until tomorrow after the elections. And with that, I'm going to turn the chair to Janet for a couple of reminders for tomorrow morning. Janet.
Thanks, Michelle. Just to remind everybody that nominations closed for provincial table officers. And if you're looking for current candidate information, it can be found on our website at mgu.ca/MGU Online 2021 and on the candidates elections tab. And I would also encourage you, if you'd like to meet a bit more about the candidates, the All Candidates Forum recording is there for you to look at and on our website.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Janet, for that. As I was saying earlier, what a great day. It's amazing. At least we are doing our union business. I am very, very proud of that and very, very proud of the board's decision to move us in the direction that is both progressive and happening now. And the standing together video Makes me cry every time I see it. For each and every one of you on that screen and each and every one of you that are out there, know that we are so proud of you. We are so proud to represent you. You are amazing, and the services you give are absolutely amazing. I can't wait for tomorrow, but before we break, I was told to say there might be a few announcements. I've asked. I'm told there is no announcements, so that says to me we're good to go. Don't forget, please enter into the standing committees contest. There's some good prizes in there, and which again can be found on our website, and all MGEU members are welcome to enter. Responses are required to be submitted by 11 a.m. tomorrow, and the link to the contest can be found in the chat. So please enjoy your evening, everyone, and we will... Okay, I've got a point of order. Darlene, point of order. Do we have Darlene? Hi, Darlene. You got on, Mike? There we go.
Sorry about that. I don't know in which order I put up my hand, but I called the question for CR4 before the vote. I don't know if it was missed.
I'm not sure, Darlene. I'm everybody here is trying to get everything, and when the delegates start typing in quick, if I missed you, I am sorry. We will be bringing it back tomorrow morning, and then you could go into the chat there.
Okay.
All
thank
right.
you.
Okay.
It's
Thank you.
Samantha here from DOTS. I just
Yes.
wanted to let you know the last slide that went up, that was the one for the motion to table CR4 for tomorrow. It was just mistitled. So don't panic if that's what you saw. The CR4 has not been voted on yet. That was just the motion, and it was mistitled on the slide. So I apologize for that.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Samantha. I can't see it from here, so I didn't realize that. With that, I've also got Scott Cloney, the vote to adjourn. We're not adjourning. Convention isn't over, Scott. So we will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Please enjoy your evening, everyone. Have some good family time away from that screen, and we'll see you at 9 a.m. Take care. Stay safe. See you in the morning.